Hey guys, tonight we're wandering through a lavender field that outlived the Black Death. Stick around if you dare. The air smells like your grandma's sachet. If your grandma distilled anxiety into potpourri, you probably won't survive the bee's judgment. But hey, at least it beats another night doom-scrolling. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your nearest cross street and current time. Let's map how wide awake the insomniac hive mind spans tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into purple waves. Heat wraps your ankles like old wool. Medieval monks stuffed their pillows with this stuff, claiming it cured nocturnal devils. Historians still argue whether they meant nightmares or just bad dates. Your boots crush dried stalks. Each snap echoes louder than a tick-tock notification. Bees murmur secrets as shadows stretch long over forgotten paths. One dive bombs your ear, your pulse spikes, but it's just a worker midzumis. They've been harvesting here since Hildegard, that 12th century herbalist nun, wrote hymns to lavender's purity. Fun fact, plague doctors stuffed their beaky masks with it too. Jury's out on whether it helped, but at least they smelled delusional. A thorn snags your sleeve, you freeze. The field's edges blur into forest, oak skeletons, wearing ivy like moth-eaten shawls. Something glints in the dirt. You crouch blade of a rusted sickle, teeth flecked with resin. Maybe dropped by a medieval beekeeper, or the idiot who tried TikTok's herbal machete trend. Your thumb brushes a velvety petal. It leaves a stain like watered-down wine. 14 varieties grew here once. Now just 2 hybrids remain, globalization's bland smoothie. A bee lands on your wrist. You count its stripes. 3, 5, brain short circuits. Pro tip: nobody actually knows how to count moving stripes. The sun dips, shadows knit themselves into a dusky quilt. That crumbling wall ahead, part of a 13th century monastery. The monks traded honey for ink, sacred manuscripts written in bee barf. Your shoe kicks a clay shard, maybe a mead jug shattered during a particularly lit psalm session. Wind ruffles the lavender, a sound like library pages turning. Your lungs fill with pollen-heavy air. Scientists say scent unlocks memory. Too bad yours only conjures expired coupons. A bee grazes your neck. You whisper scream the Lord's Prayer backward. Doesn't work. The hive looms, a thatched dome melting into twilight. Workers zigzag like commas escaped from a grammar book. Their hum syncs with your tinnitus. Norman records mention singing apiaries, hives placed near choirs to sweeten the psalms. Debate rages metaphor or medieval autotune. Your phone buzzes. You silence it too late. A guard bee spirals toward the screen's glow. Modernity, zero nature. When you retreat, heels sinking into soft earth. The soil hears half-ash, remnants of burnings. Witches, heretics, just some overzealous weeding. Twilight bleeds the field of color, purple fades to bruise gray. You spot a weathered sign. Latin inscription worn smooth, just 4 letters left. Amor, cute. Hildegard preached lavender's power to repel lust. Failed, obviously, hence you exist. The first stars prickle the sky. Bees cluster draped over combs like drunk frat boys. Their wings twitch dreaming of nectar. Sugar rushes. Tax evasion. You'll never know. Your eyelids drag. The monks were onto something. Their mattresses reeked of this stuff. A distant bell tolls, monastery ghost, or your sleep-deprived eardrums. Either way, the bees stir. Their vibration changes deeper, slower, a lullaby cranked through a billion tiny speakers. You sink onto a lichen-crusted stone. Perk of agrarian collapse. Free seating. Coolness rises. You trace a hexagon-shaped scar on your palm, childhood beasting, 4th grade. The hive's outline blurs, edges smudged like a wet charcoal sketch. Scholars call this place a site of temporal dissonance. Locals call it Steve's lavender maze thanks to a 70s hippie squat. Your breath steadies, in-out, matching the bees' wing beats. A medieval peasant once napped here, probably. Same sky, same scent, same unpaid bills haunting their skull. History's just our collective insomnia journal, pages stuck together with honey and denial. The last crane swoops overhead, its cry sharp as a quill nib. You stand, knees popping like medieval archery joints, the path backs swallowed by shadows, but the hum follows. Bees don't care if you've liked or subscribed. Their buzz needs no algorithm, just a flower, a sunbeam, a throat to rattle. So you trudge toward the tree line, leaving the lavender to its ghosts, and the ghosts to their lavender, as the hive's song stitches the dark into something almost. The air thickens with wax sweetness. Each breath turns sluggish as honey sliding off a spoon. Your boots sink into sun-warmed dirt, sinking just far enough to feel like you're growing roots. A worker bee grazes your earlobe. Her wings tickle like a watch's second hand. The drone's hum isn't just sound now. It's your temples pulsing your ribs, expanding your toes, curling in rhythm. Centuries back, long before sleep apps, medieval monks kept hives shaped like cathedral spires. You can smell why. The wax candles they'd roll from comb sheets glow brighter when infused with lavender. One bee detaches from the swarm. Her flight path stutters like a scratched vinyl record. Her thorax shivers, encoding directions to a hidden meadow in motions older than Latin. Scholars once thought these dances were random, until a professor in the 1940s waltzed across his office, mimicking them, replicated the figure eights, actually found the flowers. You sway half a step, then freeze, self-conscious of your 2 left feet. Heat warps the air above the hives, wooden boxes blurring into molten gold mirages. Historians still argue whether abbey beekeepers hummed Gregorian chants to calm the swarms. Maybe the bees just liked the bass tones. Your own throat vibrates when you whisper sanctus under your breath. A dozen antennae twitch in your direction. Here's a fact they don't teach in schools. Sleeping near hives was once prescribed for toothache. Medieval peasants swore the vibrations numbed gums better than clove oil. You press a fingertip to a molar, testing the theory, but all you taste is nectar. The bees don't mind your skepticism. They've seen doubt before, watched architects drop plumb lines beside their hexagonal cells. A drop of resin gleams on the hive's ledge, amber clinging to splintered wood. Lean closer, and you'll smell propolis, nature's bandage, sticky with antibacterial might. It's the same stuff Egyptians used to embalm kings, though you doubt they appreciated its herbal kick. Your knuckle brushes the substance. It resists for half a second, then yields like warm glue. The queen's pheromones hit your sinuses, a musk halfway between rain-soaked soil and scorched sugar. Scientists once glued tiny caps to royalty's scent glands, turned out hive chaos makes terrible data. You snort, detecting irony, as self-appointed experts still debate her true role. Maybe she's less commander and more anchor, a weight that stops the world from humming apart. Your heels lift, instinct tugging you onto tiptoes as scout bees spiral upward. Their departure leaves a vacuum in the air, a reverse wake you feel in your molars. For 3 heartbeats, 5, 9, the swarm's pitch dips into subsonic. It's the acoustic equivalent of a weighted blanket. You've heard white noise machines try to replicate this, patented Apis mellifera ambience, sold for $19.99, as if engineers could improve on 3 million years of evolution. A wingtip skims your wrist, Velcro's itch without the sound. This close, the bee's stripes aren't black and yellow, they're chestnut and amber. Like tree rings, like the pages of those rotting herbals monks tucked into chant books. Your pulse finally syncs with the hive's baseline thrum. The delay made you queasy at first. Now the rhythm feels correct, a metronome resetting your cells to something older than clocks. Dusk comes early here, shadows pooling like spilled ink around hives. Workers return with pollen leggings in sunset hues, tangerine magenta, bruised purple. You wonder if they see color as you do, or taste it through their feet. A forager lands on your sleeve, her legs heavy with violet dust. When she departs, the pigment smudges your skin, temporary tattoos from an artist who asks no permission. The first stars prickle the sky, pinpricks muted by honey-heavy air. Your eyelids dip, each blink synced to antennae tapping comb walls. Somewhere below, nurse bees cradle larvae, their bodies shivering to maintain womb warmth. You shiver too, though the night's still mild. Sympathy, evolution, or just the breeze stealing through your buttonholes doesn't matter. The hive accepts all 3 answers. One bee lingers as others retreat, her wings fanning scent molecules into the dark. You catch notes of time, iron, and something muskier. Medieval warriors rubbed hives before battle, believing the odor masked their fierce sweat. A tactic biologists confirm works, if only because bees hate cortisol. You exhale slowly, wondering what your breath broadcasts. Hope it smells like patience, like enough. Coolness seeps up through the soil, a counterpoint to the hive's residual warmth. Your spine curves, vertebrae stacking like uneven stones in a monastery wall. History claims those monks slept 4 hours a night, prayer cycles fractured by bell tolls. You've lasted 10 minutes without checking your phone. Progress tastes sweeter than comb. The last guard bee circles you once, twice, before diving into her wax fortress. Her buzz fades into the hive's collective purr, a sound felt more than heard. Your souls have sunk another half-inch, earth claiming you as temporary decor. You don't resist. Let the lavender roots tangle with your shoelaces. Let the queen's song thrum in your molars. Who needs a lullaby when the world vibrates its own? Sunrise stains the field molten. Your shadow stretches thin as parchment across lavender rows. Pollen motes catch the light, each golden speck a dying ember from last night's stars. You squint, counting wing beats between heart thumps, 2, 4. Then lose track when 7 bees bounce off your forehead. Historians note medieval apothecaries planted lavender near bedsides, its scent believed to ward off nightmares. Maybe that's why you slept without dreaming, though the rock under your hip might have helped. A worker ziplines down a stem, her pollen sacs swollen with violet powder. She hovers briefly, air displacing around her like ripples in a pond. You hold your breath. 1953 researchers proved bees calculate flight efficiency mid-journey. Doesn't help you now your own trajectories as efficient as a lost tourist. Botanists still spar over whether medieval gardens prioritized bee health or just human noses. You pluck a blossom, crushing it absently, and inhale 200 years of sleep advice. Turns out folklore and allergy meds don't mix. A sneeze rips through you, startling a drone into a spiral ascent. He glares back as much as a faceless hexapod can glare. Light pools in the crook of wilted petals, gold trickling into earthy cracks. Your thumb traces a shadow's edge, temperature shifting from sun-warm to root-cool. 11th century monks wrote of lavender's holy thrum, claiming bees napped in its shade during matins. You almost believe it, watching a dozy guard bee slump against a stamen. Her antennae droop, then snap upright, worker of the month material right there. Pollen coats your collar, iridescent under direct sun. You tilt your head, letting light refract through amber-dusted fibers. Renaissance dandies once wore this shade deliberately dyeing ruffs with crushed heliotrope and pea. Modern fashion's loss. A bee investigates your shoulder, proboscis tasting salt and regret. She departs unimpressed, buzzing what you assume is insect sarcasm. Sudden shade cools your neck, a cloud smothering the sun's furnace breath. The swarm's hum dips, a collective exhale rippling through wings and leaves. You count breaths this time, inhaling as 20 bees lift, exhaling as 32 land. The rhythm fractures when a latecomer rams your earlobe. Historians still argue whether monastic scribes used hives as makeshift metronomes. Backup hypothesis: they just really liked honey. Your knees crack as you stand, sound echoing a branch's snap. Bees ignore the offense, too busy emulsifying nectar into liquid clockwork. One clings to your shoelace, her wings vibrating the aglet like a tiny guitar string. You freeze, half expecting a folk tune, but she's all business. Her plucking unties the knot. Clever girl, light bleeds across the field, sharp angles softening as noon approaches. You squint at a pebble, its shadow shrinking into a puddle of nothing. Timekeeping via stone method of kings and bored children. A bee lands on the rock, her buzz morphing into a mosquito whine. You grant her the throne. Hunger pinches your gut, a rude contrast to nature's sacred murmur. You recall medieval peasants chewing lavender stems during fasts, tricking the tongue with floral bitterness. Snap off a sprig. It tastes like soap and existential compromise. The bees approve, dancing in jagged lines that might spell succor. Sunlight filters through your water bottle, projecting liquid ripples onto the soil. A forager mistakes the shimmer for a pond bouncing off polymer with a betrayed thwip. You murmur an apology, insincerity diluted by genuine awe. Her sisters swarm the bottle, sensing the fraud now, creating a kaleidoscope of annoyed silhouettes. The queen's pheromones shift, scent notes sliding from burnt caramel to wet slate. Workers quicken their steps, antennae sketching maps only they can parse. You mimic their tilt-headed focus and promptly trip over a root. 13 bees witness your pratfall, humiliations cheaper than Netflix. When the light slants just so, you spot goat hairs snagged on thistles. 8th century shepherds grazed flocks, hear their charges craving lavender's oils over bland grass. The bees watch you pluck a wiry strand, suspended between species and centuries. You pocket the relic, proof you're not the only invasive species today. Dew evaporates from your sleeves, leaving salt streaks like dried comet tails. A nurse bee cleans her forelegs beside you, scouring pollen with the diligence of a scrivener. You rub a crusted eyelid, smearing yesterday's dust into today's mistakes. Symmetries, overrated anyway. The hive's song gentles, vibrations settling into a lullaby tempo. You count wing flicks again, 63, 80, then stop. Numbers dissolve like sugar in tea, sweetness lingering without structure. A bee navigates your hair's maze, strand by strand, redefining split ends as collaboration. You let her work. The hum syncs with your blink rate, eyelids sealing like waxed parchment. Somewhere beyond the field, a clock chimes. Neither of you care. The monastery walls rise like crooked teeth, moss-filling cavities where mortar once held. Your shadow brushes the stones, 3 centuries of sunburn flaking under phantom touch. Workers zigzag between wall cracks, their paths echoing pilgrims who once traced rosary beads here. Historians note Cistercian monks planted thyme in cloister gardens, its scent masking the reek of unwashed robes. You inhale sharply, modern deodorants triumph over medieval austerity. A bee emerges from a fissure, legs dusted with orange pollen that wasn't lavender. Her discovery, nasturtiums colonizing the ruins' north face. You crouch, knees popping like greenwood in fire, and spot mortar flecked with seashells. 13th century builders crushed coastal limestone here, hauling the sea's bones inland. The bee studies you, proboscis twitching, as if debating architectural criticism. Wind funnels through a lancet window's skeleton, humming dissonant chords against sandstone. You press your palm to the wall, coolness leaching into sweat lines. Something scurries behind the stone centipedes, or ancient quill nibs teased back to life. Breathe. You whisper advice for yourself or the building. A joke crumbles before reaching your lips. Clover spills from a collapsed arch, each leaf flexing under bee traffic. You count 12 workers on a patch, no larger than your hand, their industry mocking your idleness. Medieval beekeepers allegedly urinated on hives to calm swarms, a fact modern apiaries omit from brochures. Your water bottle feels suddenly contaminated. Light bleeds through a gargoyle's missing eye socket, projecting a phantom leer at your feet. You step into its grin, letting the stone tongue lick your ankles. 5 bees trail you, curious or lost. 2 peel off to inspect a snail shell, air vibrating with their debate. The winner rolls the shell downhill, proto-engineering or B-grade mischief. Blue butterflies flicker along the wall's base, their wings echoing stained glass shards in the dirt. You tow a fragment, cobalt edges softened by time. 13th century glaziers added silver nitrate for that exact blue, never guessing it'd outlast their names. A butterfly alights on the glass, merging past and present artisanship. The bees ignore both. Your nail catches on a carved letter, M, or maybe a worn smooth by devotionals. Pilgrims once traced these initials during prayer, oil from fingertips darkening the grooves. You resist the urge, palm gritty with pollen and hesitation. Workers spiral upward, their flight paths weaving new hymns over old psalms. A thyme stem cracks underfoot, pungency sharp as vinaigrette. You pluck a leaf, rolling it until chlorophyll stains your thumb. Monastic infirmaries brewed this for coughs, mixing it with honey and hubris. Your tongue tingles, bitterness cut by distant lavender sweetness. The aftertaste outlasts 4 bee landings on your wrist. Shade crawls across the ruins, temperature dropping like a dropped chalice. Your breath fogs, briefly mirroring a bishop's censer swirl. Historians still argue whether cloister gardens cultivated herbs for medicine or to appease disoriented bees. The current apiary bureau stays tactfully silent. 3 drones investigate your fog, wings shredding it into panicled mist. You spot a rusted hinge wedged in rubble, its purpose as forgotten as Latin Mass. Bees pour from a nearby hole their density, suggesting a secret chapel behind stone. Their hum layers with the wind's drone organum resonating through your molars. You imagine Gregorian chant lyrics, or a pro nobis replaced by apis mellifera. Ants march along a mortar line, their route intersecting a bee's return flight. Both species pause, antennae flicking in truncated diplomacy. A duel of pheromones commences. You lean closer, chin grazing nettles, and miss the treaty signing. The ant column splits, bee traffic resumes. Diplomatic immunity survives another day. Sunset glazes the highest stones, turning flint edges into molten lead. Your shadow stretches toward the field, elongated fingers brushing lavender tips. Two bees hitchhike your silhouette, riding the penumbra down to petals. You envy their commute. The wall's cracks deepen into charcoal lines, a lithic map of drought years. Night's first breeze riffles your hair, strands mimicking the ropes of monastic bells. Workers retreat, their final orbits tightening into defensive coils. You count 19 entering the hive, 23. Numbers muddle as torchlight flickers in memory. Did 6th century monks really read by bee comb candlelight? The text Apicultura Divina says yes. But that manuscript's mostly hedgehog grease stains. Your heel grinds a pebble crunch louder than a snapped communion wafer. Guilt evaporates when a bee bumps your knuckle, her touch lighter than a cardinal's ring. She deposits a lavender fleck on your skin, anointing without ceremony. The mark glows faintly, or maybe you're just woozy from thymol fumes. Moonlight pools in a mortar bowl, crumbled saints watching you from their stony frames. You dip a finger, scooping air and lunacy. 11 bees guard the dried-up font, their home, anointed by centuries of accidental blessings. One circles your head, drawing a halo even skeptics can admire. You wear it till dawn. Venus glimmers above. Medieval stargazers called it the evening's candle. Your breath syncs with the fading buzz, a D-flat hum, according to tone-deaf monks. Historians still argue whether abbey bells chimed for prayers or to guide drones home. The last worker bees ascend, their wings backlit like parchment lanterns. You track one's silhouette. It blinks out as Venus sharpens into focus. Cool air carries a memory of heat, lavender exhaling the day's swallowed sunlight. Your cheeks prickle phantom warmth, retreating into star-flecked velvet. A belated drone bumbles past, pollen baskets empty, antennae drooping like overcooked angel hair. Rookie, you whisper, the insult softened by your own yawn. Shadows pool at the field's edge, liquid amethyst seeping into soil. Bees cluster at their hive's mouth, a living drape drawn against the night. Their final vibrations ripple through your souls, aftershocks of a daylight earthquake. You count 19 heartbeats before the silence congeals, thick as monastery honey. A moth grazes your ear, its furred wings mimicking a bee's urgency. You flinch, then laugh. The sound startles a snail into its shell. Medieval illuminators painted moths as lost souls seeking cathedral windows. This one's clearly after your shampoo's pear blossom notes. Venus brightens, its glow reflecting off dew lavender like coin spills. 13th century alchemists tried distilling starlight from evening blooms. Their failures stained parchments with violet inks and probably drove a few mad. You pocket a sprig, modern irrationality clasped in denim. The hive's entrance darkens, guard bees now barring entry like bouncers. One taps its antennae against a tardy forager's head, insect reprimand. In Morse code, your stomach growls solidarity. Hunger, it seems, transcends species and centuries. Wind riffles the lavender, stems bowing toward the eastern treeline. Bees sealed in wax dream of dawn patrols, or maybe just hexagons. You swear the field sighs, a subterranean hum rising through your arches. Geologists would blame aquifers. You prefer to think the earth's snoring. Your shadow merges with the general gloom, an outline erased by consensus. Only Venus holds its place, steadfast as abbey sundials. The first bat swoops, then halts midair beat-efficient diet, recalibrating its echolocation. Tough shift, you murmur. It flicks leather wings, dismissing your pity along with the gnats. Night's chill settles between your vertebrae, each joint creaking like a spice mill. Medieval laborers rubbed lavender oil into their backs, assuming they woke up at all. You settle for stretching, your spine's protest, drowned by crickets. A lone bee shoots from the hive, a kamikaze arc toward Venus. She stalls, spirals, plummets into shadows. Workers drag her cargo back inside, policing both gravity and ambition. Your throat tightens, then relaxes. Even celestial hopes need weight limits. The lavender sways, no bees left to ride its rhythm. You count 73 stems before losing focus. Apothecaries prescribed this exact count for humoral imbalances. They also prescribed leeches. Progress, you decide, tastes like absent bloodletting. Venus blinks your retinas, rebelling against celestial persistence. Eyelids down, you float on afterimages, lavender edges dissolving into retinal static. 47 years ago, Viking 1 photographed Martian sunset blues. You prefer Earth's violet fade, but keep that heresy to yourself. Your water bottle glows in the dimness, plastic masquerading as relic. Monks drank from lead-lined flasks and wondered why angels sounded muffled. You sip carefully, avoiding imaginary metallic aftertastes. The bees, sensibly, stick to nectar. Something crumbles underfoot, a dead stalk, or medieval bread crust. Guilt flashes hot, then cools. Decay feeds next year's blooms. Let archaeologists complain through their microscopes. The horizon swallows Venus, its descent slowed by theatrics. You linger until the last drone's echo fades, until your breath becomes the loudest hum in the field. Darkness thickens like spilled ink. Your toes brush something vibrating through boot soles. Guard bees patrol invisible routes, their wing beats reduced to subsonic purrs. 13th century castle sentries swore night air amplified whispers. But these workers need no human tricks. You crouch, palm flat, on chilled soil. A tremor pulses up your arm, Morse code from the deep. Fringe apiarists claim bees drum messages through hive walls. The rhythm under your hand says either all clear or intruder at Sector 7. Shadows shift. A sentry silhouette blocks the hive entrance. Her antennae snap left, right, scanning for moth spies or clumsy humans. Historians still argue whether nocturnal guards were older workers or insomniac volunteers. You vote for the cranky veterans. Your knee pops. The sound echoes like a snapped twig. 5 guards turn as one abdomen's angled like tiny crossbows. Easy, you whisper, voice smoother than a monastic scribe's vellum. They relax, or pretend to. Moonlight glints on compound eyes, each facet holding a warped reflection of your face. Bees navigate by polarized light, even on starless nights. You resist the urge to test their night vision with rude gestures. A worker emerges, backward walk, betraying her night shift inexperience. Guards herd her inside with headbutts, insect HR at its most direct. Your corporate retreats never involved antennae jabs. Progress. The queen's pheromones seep through limestone cracks, scent notes of mandarin and damp parchment. Night nurses tend her egg chamber and allegedly whisper royal gossip. Disregard historians who call that anthropomorphic nonsense. You've met bumblebees. Your watch glows too. 17 a.m., the witching hour for shift changes. Replacement guards arrive, fresh antennae polished, stingers glistening with antiviral resin. They click greetings or complaints about day shift laziness, tones hard to gauge. Wind riffles lavender, dry leaves mimicking wing rustles. Guards tense, then dismiss the false alarm. 10th century night, watchmen faced similar problems with oat straw and drunk squires. Some things don't evolve. A scout drops from nowhere, her cargo pouch bulging with midnight nectar. Guards frisk her with brisk antennae pats. Tax collectors once inspected spice carts with equal suspicion. Sweetness invites theft across species. Your breath fogs, each exhale dissolving before reaching the hive. Honeybees shiver to warm their brood on nights like this. You shiver too, less heroically. Pebbles dig into your calves, a medieval mosaic of discomfort. Groundskeeper monks would have swept this path smooth. Their ghosts probably judge your slouch. Let them. Your vertebrae stopped caring at midnight. 2 guards wrestle a beetle intruder, their combined buzz rising to a dentist's drill whine. Victory comes when the beetle flees, trailing olfactory insults. You mentally translate them into sailor slang. Dew forms on your sleeve, cold pearls merging into damp patches. Night foraging bees avoid condensation, their hairs repelling water like thatched roofs. You lack both fur and craftsmanship. Dampness wins. The hive's inner glow dims, nurses dousing wax lamp secretions. Experts say bees don't produce light. Experts haven't stood here watching comb cells flicker like rushlights. Your heartbeat syncs with distant guard vibrations, a lullaby in uneven 7/8 time. Music theorists say medieval dances used similar rhythms. Your toes tap a silent estampie under cover of dark. A guard approaches, halts an inch from your nose. Her wings blur in threat display, or maybe curiosity. 12 seconds pass, an entomological staring contest. She retreats first. Victory tastes like mild hysteria. Clouds unveil the moon. Its light startles the shift change ritual. Bees pour from the hive, then freeze, awestruck by the satellite's borrowed glow. You share the pause. Lunacy isn't exclusive to humans. Dawn's first tease greens the eastern sky. Guards usher stragglers inside, the hive sealing itself tighter than a miser's coin purse. Your legs unfold stiffly, the field reasserting its claim on your joints. Worker buzzes soften to bedtime murmurs. You match their volume, admiring the watchman's precision. Turns out guarding a medieval fortress isn't so different from guarding a honey stockpile. Both require patience, vigilance, and occasionally stabbing a Viking. The lavender bends, stems bowing to some invisible crown. That first thunderclap isn't sound, it's a gut-deep tremor, like God moving furniture upstairs. Your phone's weather app said 10% chance. Medieval peasants, red sheep's sneezes, maybe they'd mock your hubris. Leaves flip, pale undersides flashing like 1,000 surrender flags. Bees retreat mid-flight, abandoning petals to save dry wings. Their coordination puts your last group project to shame. Rain arrives not with a roar, but fingertips. Drops tap your shoulders, cold braille announcing payback for centuries of sunscreen and umbrellas. 8th century monks stored stormwater in ox bladder flasks. You've got cupped palms and regret. Lightning forks the sky, a dendritic crack splitting clouds. Bees detect electrical fields. You detect your hair standing at attention. One worker zips past, carrying what might be a tiny lightning rod or just wishful thinking. Mud sucks at your boots, same gluey grip that mired Viking raids. Historians still argue whether English downpours saved the kingdom from more than one invasion. Your right foot votes yes as it peels free. Hailstones ricochet off your scalp, nature's ASMR, mice too close. You recall niche meteorology blogs claiming Tudor witches sold anvil-shaped hail as storm teeth. 2 bounce into your collar, cold punctuation for that factoid. The queen's hive tightens, worker bodies forming living caulk in every crevice. Wax membranes seal doorways. Architects could have taken notes during the siege of Orleans. You're stuck playing human sponge cake. Thunder sinks with your molars clacking. Impromptu jaw harp recital. Makeshift gutter channels spill over water braiding through medieval irrigation ditches. Your socks channel it too, less efficiently. A downed worker struggles in a puddle, wings waterlogged as parchment. You scoop her onto a leaf, feel 6 legs grip like Velcro. Her buzz translates to unhand me, Claude, or maybe cheers, mate. Wind yanks at your hood, an invisible pickpocket after your last dry patch. Renaissance painters depicted zephyrs as cherubs. Key difference: cherubs don't steal cigarette lighters from your pockets. Lightning illuminates the monastery's skeleton, crumbled arches like decomposed ribs. Plagues, wars, and termites took their toll. But weather's the patient killer. Your nose drips in solidarity with its mortar. Bees cluster under thistle leaves, cottony undersides repelling rain. You hunch beside them, your hood's waterproof, rating proving as reliable as alchemy texts. Shared miseries, the original social network. The storm's eye passes, silence heavier than cathedral bells. Workers test the air, antennae semaphoring meteorological gossip. You sniff too, detect ozone, and the musk of soaked medieval ledger books. Mudslides expose arrowheads, rusty triangles beside writhing earthworms. 13th century archers lost them. Modern badgers steal them for teething kits. Nature's thrift shop never closes. Rain renews its assault, a drummer testing every surface. Hail embeds in mud quicksilver beads among the lavender. Experts deny medieval ice farms existed. Explain these hexagonal depressions then, Dr. Smartapants. Your watch dies, drowned circuitry, joining the monastery's broken bells. Time blurs into shivers and counting wing flicks. Bees metabolize honey for warmth. You metabolize yesterday's gas station pastry. A guard bee glues your sleeve to a fence post, propolis punishment for disturbing her storm prep. 5 minutes ago, she was a refugee. Now she's judge, jury, and sticky executioner. Lightning silhouettes a hare's dash, its panicked sprint mirroring your commute last Thursday. Both races pointless, both spurred by forces beyond our ken. The hare's ears flop with 20% more dignity. Dawn comes grudgingly, pale light revealing a battlefield of petals. Workers emerge assessing damage with the efficiency of insurance adjusters. You pluck a sodden map from your pocket. It disintegrates like communion wafer. The queen's pheromones return, citrus notes cutting through the wet wool stench. Her hive survived Genghis Khan's, whether your jacket didn't survive Tuesday. Perspective stings sharper than any antennae jab. Sunrise, steam rises, the field becoming a sauna with identity issues. Bees resume patrols. You resume hoping hypothermias, just a tick-tock trend. Thunder rumbles its farewell, or maybe indigestion from swallowing the night. Heat rises from the comb's core, a breath against your cheek that smells of melted candle wax and panic sweat. The queen's chamber glows, warm gold bleeding through paper-thin walls. Workers part around you, their bodies vibrating at a pitch that loosens your molars. Thick air clings to your throat, part honey, part something muskier than forgotten gym socks. Pheromones haze your thoughts, a chemical fog creeping behind your eyes. Egyptian, Kings packed their tombs with honey pots. Turns out eternity smells like a bakery's dumpster in July. Hexagons press into your palms as you crouch, the geometry of efficiency, piercing your modern obsession with right angles. Workers seal a cell above you, their abdomens pulsing wax like 3D printers made of anxiety and spite. Eggs glisten in their cribs, pearls threaded on a liquid string. Each cream-colored curve holds 1,000-winged future. And your sudden urge to whisper apologies for every swatted summer nuisance. Historians still argue whether Stone Age hives were food stores or the first churches. You're leaning toward door number 2. A nurse bee brushes your wrist, her touch lighter than a cobweb credit score. She examines your skin for pollen, pores, weaknesses. Her antennae flick twice before moving on universal judgment, translated through arthropod Morse code. Royal jelly pools in a cup-shaped cell, iridescent goo that could pass as alien snot. Medieval texts claimed this stuff cured impotence and possibly caused that rash on your cousin end. The queen floats through her subjects, her abdomen a trembling comma over worker-formed stepping stones. Pheromone trails stick to your clothes, scent markers mapping lost tourist in every crease. Your pulse sinks to wing beats, or maybe their wings sink to your fear. Either way, the drunkard's walk of your heartbeat isn't fooling anyone. Light refracts through wax walls, jittering yellows that mock your phone's night shift mode. A worker drags a larva across your shoe, babysitting gone feral. 10th century monks wrote hive observations upside down, their manuscripts read like beekeeping fanfiction, penned during Lenten fasts. The queen pauses, compound eyes catching fractured versions of your face. You're a funhouse mirror. She's eternity in an insect bodysuit. Workers freeze mid-task, their devotion so absolute it curdles your agnostic soul. A drone's carcass tumbles down the comb, redundant genetics expelled before winter. His brothers still cluster by the entrance, living billboards for Darwinian auditions. You spot storm mud on his wings, proof your shared baptism in yesterday's downpour. Wax creaks under your knees, the acoustics amplifying every shift into earthquake territory. Pheromones coat your tongue now, not sweet, but salty bitter like tears overspilled. Russian czars kept jeweled hives, but no rubies ever hummed this fever bright. Your breath fogs the chamber air, a temporary cloud in their forever summer. Workers realign around the disruption, tiny architects correcting a cosmic typo. The queen deposits another egg, a semicolon, in a sentence that outlasts cathedrals. Heat intensifies, ripening the smell of wax into something dangerously close to vanilla. Your eyelids droop, their chemical lullaby rewriting dreams into amber-toned slideshows. Last thing you see, a worker adjusting the egg's angle, perfecting futures in degrees you'll never perceive. Dawn bleeds through the monastery's broken arches. Your pupils shrink against light, stippled with wings. Ravens cluster on crumbling ledges, black feathers smudging the peach-colored sky. Their croaks grate against the bees' velvet hum, two ancient languages refusing to translate. You blink honey crust from your lashes. The hive's night shift still murmurs in your left ear. A raven tilts its head, obsidian eye noting your stained fingertips. Workers zigzag toward nectar. Avian shadows mimic their paths in reverse. Up becomes down. Predator mirrors pray the world's a broken mirror today. One bird hops onto a lavender stalk. Purple blooms bow under goth-level disappointment. Its beak snaps at a passing drone, metal-on-metal clack echoing through the field. Bees retaliate en masse, a cloud of buzzing shrapnel driving the thief skyward. Victorian scientists documented ravens stealing hive tools, though none explained their obsession with tiny anvils. Sunlight gilds the raven's throat feathers, iridescent oil slick on a tar background. You count 17 birds, or maybe 18. Their math defies your sleep-paddled brain. Workers land on your shoulders, chitinous feet gossamer light through your shirt. A raven's shadow passes over your chest. The coolness lingers like a phantom X-ray. The largest bird croaks, its voice rougher than a trucker's coffee cough. Bees answer with a frequency that vibrates your molars. Historians still argue whether medieval farmers used ravens to predict swarms, or just cursed them as feathery looters. You pocket a fallen lavender sprig, instantly feeling like a third wheel at this primal DMV. One bee alights on a raven's claw, avian and insect frozen in truce or threat. The bird flexes its talon. The worker adjusts her pollen baskets, mutual appraisal without subtitles. Ravens carried Norse god whispers, bees hoarded Byzantine gossip. You're stranded between tabloids. Dew drips from a raven's beak, each drop bursting violet scent where it falls. Birds shuffle sideways, secretive as nuns with poker tells. Their greasy feathers leave streaks on sun-warmed stones, abstract art that'll degrade by noon. Workers zip through the avian gauntlet, postmen ignoring a gang of letterbox vandals. Your knees protest as you stand dried mud from yesterday's storm cracks like desert clay. Ravens eye the falling debris. Tiny Armageddons in the lavender sea. A worker investigates your collar, her wings fanning air that smells of iron and elderflower. The birds shift closer, dark matter, drawn to curiosity's event horizon. Wind riffles through feather and exoskeleton. A score only the stones remember. One raven preens its primaries with fastidious drag queen energy. Bees tangle in your hair, living barrettes with questionable grip. You recall 6th grade debates about corvid IQ. Never imagined the SATs would include hive diplomacy. The flock surges upward, black petals swirling toward a thermal. Their absence leaves the air lighter, emptier, like a deleted browser history. Bees reclaim the dawn chorus, buzzing a victory march through lavender trenches. Your ears ring with phantom croaks, auditory afterimage staining the hum. Shadows shorten their claws across the field. Raven magic fades with the dew, though wing beats still echo in your jaw hinge. Workers lead you past fallen feathers, each quill a discarded pen from some failed sky poem. The monastery bell stays silent, its bronze tongue outshouted by biology. You inhale lavender and avian musk, a cologne called unpaid intern at the apocalypse. A late arriving raven dive bombs a thistle, its cry smeared across the morning's clean canvas. Bees drift toward your open palm, then dart away, tiny matadors, avoiding bull-sized metaphors. Stone walls hum with stored heat, their cracks spelling runes in dead lichen. Your shadow stretches east, a smudged fingerprint heading where the hives won't follow. Ravens dissolve into specks, periods ending sentences you couldn't parse. Bees tickle your nape, insistent as baristas pushing the seasonal blend. The last raven drops a gift, mossy twig landing near your boot. 11 workers swarm it, antennae mapping this alien twig stuff. You mutter thanks to empty sky, voice swallowed by a breeze that smells faintly of dinosaur aspirations. Down in the lavender roots, a queen's daughter stirs. Sticky residue crusts your palm, your fingers stick together like reluctant lovers. The scent hits dried sunlight and blooms pressed between prayer book pages. Beeswax clings under your nails, accidental manicure from last night's hive wall leaning. A bead of amber clings to your wristwatch, time itself sugared and slowed. You lick your palm, an instinct as old as bear cubs and poor decisions. Sweetness explodes, not the sharp sugar rush of candy, but slow gold unspooling. Taste buds scream, then sigh, then dissolve into August afternoons you can't place. Workers hover near your sticky skin, negotiating whether you're thief or spillage. The monks here once traded honey for roof tiles, each jar measured against God's patience. Their ledgers mentioned liquid gold, though historians still argue whether that meant bribe money or beeswax candles. You scrape resin off a time stalk, failed hive caulk from some medieval intern's blunder. Heat softens the honey in your hair, crisp strands now glue themselves to your neck. Your shirt sticks to your spine, improvised bee-proofing for sensitive areas. A drone mistakes your elbow for a flower, proboscis, tapping questingly at sweat pores. 13 freckles on your arm glitter tiny constellations in the amber glaze. Shelves in Kairos, pyramids held honey pots for pharaohs, dessert for eternity's endless brunch. Modern chemists found 3,000-year-old jars still edible if you ignore the existential dread of tasting time. Your own honeyed palm feels less poetic, more regrets from a toddler's breakfast buffet. Sunlight bakes the field into a candle. You're the wick sweating, scented wax. Lavender inhales, exhales, each breath heavier than the last. That vague metallic tang could be ancient sword blood in the soil or the fork you licked at lunch. A worker cleans your watch band, her legs meticulous as a jeweler's tweezers. Her sisters mob a spilled droplet, forming a living asterisk to your clumsiness. Farmers once rubbed hive tools on aching joints, a remedy now lost to ibuprofen's tyranny. Your own knees creak. You briefly consider taping bees to your patellas. Wind riffles purple stalks. The field becomes 1,000 nodding sensors. Smoke would complete the vibe, but arson's poor gratitude for free honey. Your stomach growls, bass note to the hives, alto hum. Monks probably did fasting breakthroughs here, cheating with sneaky honey licks during psalm breaks. Shade pools at your feet, a visual echo of spilled tea. You suck your sticky fingers, childhood habit, surviving mortgages, and mild cynicism. The taste conjures a summer that never existed. Golden light through farmhouse screens. A dog that was definitely imaginary. Scholars whisper about hive hieroglyphs in Alexandria's drowned libraries. Beekeeping secrets sunk with Cleopatra's perfume fleet. You carve a smiley face, encrusted honey, instant karma, as ants declare holy war. Your teeth ache, sweetness now curdling towards cloying. A worker daubs your knuckle, tiny pharmacist, rebalancing the dosage. 17 bees rotate around your head, the world's most anxious halo. Their wings sprinkle pollen dust, irritating, yet still the best facial you've had in months. Back in the car later, months from now, you'll find a crystallized splotch on the gearshift. It'll smell faintly of this heat, this light, this upfront payment for time travel. For now, you let the ants have their share. Forgiveness tastes better when stolen. Your boot scrapes metal under time stems, rusted shears half swallowed by dirt. Blades curve like horns, flecks of amber shimmer, where honey once froze mid-drip. You squat, knees protesting, to brush off crumbling leather wrappings. 13th century French beekeepers wielded iron shears like these, though theirs smelled less of tetanus. The grip fits your palm, unexpected intimacy, with a dead stranger's calluses, pitted metal whispers against rust, sound of a cogwheel gargling gravel. Bees investigate the tool, their buzzes take on a scolding tone. Medieval apiaries used shears for cutting comb, or maybe trimming rival beekeepers' mustaches. Historians still argue whether that notch near the hinge held swarms, or just snipped blackberry thorns. Your thumb finds grooves in the handle, crude Ogham script spelling nonsense. 9th century Hiberno-Saxon monks carved complaints into everything. Brother Dungle stole my socks, survives on a tax ledger. These marks likely say hot honey burns, or Maeve's breath could wilt yarrow. You wedge the shears free, dirt cascades from joints like expired pepper. One blade snaps off, plinks into nettles, with the finality of a cracking knuckle. Rust powders your wrist, faux bronzer for indecisive goths. You imagine this tool's Tinder profile, like long walks through apiaries. Bonus if you've got a whetstone. Amber droplets cling despite centuries, bee spit outlasting dynasties and dialects. Carthaginian traders preserved corpses in honey, their deli section approach to mortality. Your own hands feel equally pickled, perma-sticky from hive air and poor impulse control. The surviving blade still cuts. You test it on lavender stalks. Purple heads tumble, releasing scent like church incense crossed with laundry detergent. 12 bees dive into severed stems, emergency triage for wounded flowers. Farmers once buried blunted tools in fields, offering to whatever god handles agricultural guilt. Shadows pool around the shears, a Rorschach blot resembling a disgruntled owl. Your nail flicks a rust flake. It arcs into sunlight, becomes a tiny meteor. Museum tags would call this object purpose unknown, while monks' ghosts snort into their hoods. Wind riffles your hair, strands stick to honeyed temples like botanical specimens. The blade reflects your eye iris, warped into a murky puddle green. Medieval apprentices hid love notes in beekeepers' journals, their script smudged by caramelized drips. A worker lands on the shears, her wings smearing pollen across oxidized pits. Her sisters should unionize. This shifts clearly beyond the workers' comp agreement. You press the cool metal to your forearm, ridiculous pulse against colder history. Thunder growls somewhere beyond the hills, sound of Thor clearing his throat. The field exhales lavender musk, a sedative for humans and hummingbirds alike. You rebury the broken shears upside down, a tiny fence post for root armies. Rain begins, drops freckle the rust into temporary vibrancy. 147 bees retreat their fur coats, ruined by your weather whims. You suck honey from your thumb, chronological vertigo from tasting what outlasts us. Mud slurps at your soles as you walk away. Behind you, the shears settle deeper, becoming just another mineral deposit. Time turns all tools into geology, given enough indifference and rain. Heat presses the field flat. Silence pools in lavender's shade like spilled mercury. Your spine softens one vertebra at a time into the earth. 13th century farmers planted lavender between crops, their version of pest control, minus the pesticide lawsuits. A single worker bee drifts past, her pollen basket's empty shift, abandoned for siesta rebellion. Sun bleaches purple blooms into faded bruised tones, their scent sharpening to cut through the haze. You test a hypothesis, hold your breath until a bee blinks. 11 seconds in, your lungs crackle. Wings keep droning without pity. Some claim medieval beekeepers wore masks stuffed with lavender to smell like heaven's waiting room. They believed it calmed angry swarms. Your own nostrils flare, inhaling soporific musk, roadside motion lotion for existential dread. A grasshopper catapults onto your shin, armored hitchhiker seeking better Wi-Fi reception. Its antennae twitch coded critique of your life choices. Heat shimmers rise from sun-baked stones, their dance hypnotic and unbearably patient. Historians still argue whether monks distilled lavender oil for prayer, or just to mask the reek of unwashed habits. Lids droop. The sky shrinks to a thin blue slit between lashes. Ants navigate your knuckles, treating topography as mere inconvenience. Their chain of command phrase near your thumbnail cuticle. Tiny generals debate mutiny. You recall Byzantine emperors anointing swords with lavender oil. Post-battle self-care for blades and egos. Wind staggers through stalks. Exhausted messenger from some distant storm. Pollen drifts into your collar. Sun-warmed gold, dust irrevocably seasoning your sweat. A drone's buzz frays into static, overworked speaker from a dying Bluetooth earbud. Centuries collapse neatly. Human and insect exhaustion wear the same ragged coat. Shadows crawl over you, liquid shapes bleeding across closed eyelids. Archaeologists found lavender under Hadrian's bathhouse tiles. Floral packs, Romana for occupied Britons. Your pinky finger twitches, packs you versus gravity's lazy siege. Victory seems unlikely. A bead of sweat detours into your ear canal, improvised ASMR for the martyred. The same moisture once soaked crusaders' tunics, evaporated, fell as rain here. Circles within circles, you count wing beats per minute, giving up when math feels like a trespass. Stone walls hum, noon's heat charging them like battery plates. Monks supposedly napped in lavender fields to cure morose humors. Their snores probably scared off hares. And any hope of divine visions. Your own breath syncs with distant bees, a lullaby for the willingly defenseless. Jaw unclenches, molars part ways after decades of covert grinding. A ladybug commandeers your shirt button, gains air superiority. 17th century herbalists prescribed lavender tea for hysterical wombs. Modern lads chugging Monster Energy owe them royalties, really. Silence isn't empty here, it's layered. Compressed leaf litter, mycelial gossip, the echo of a field mouse's sneeze from 3 Tuesdays prior. You mimic a corpse at Pompeii, half awaiting archaeologists to pour plaster in your ear. Clouds congeal, hesitate, slink off to bully another valley. The soundtrack now, one droning biplane bee, and your left knee's sour creak. Victorian women tucked sachets in bodices, chaste defense against unsavory advances. You've got dirt as cologne and detachment as a force field. When did fingers become roots? Cells negotiate with soil, border dispute, settled via osmosis. Heat pulses like a warp core, breach your personal shields at 12%. Even the crows have gone internal, their goth poetry on temporary hiatus. Lavender bends under its own scent, stems bowing to some invisible coronation. Napoleon demanded lavender baths post-battle, his way of washing away the stupid. You've got grass tickling your neck, nature's passive-aggressive massage. A gnat explores your nostril, turns back at the mucus checkpoint. Air thickens, each inhale feels like biting into honeycomb. Your ribs expand, press against time's Winnebago parked on your chest. Farmers once paid tithes in lavender bundles, medieval Venmo for God's subscription service. You're behind on payments, accruing interest in sunburns and existential credit. Eyes open, world reduced to aperture and bloom. A dandelion clock floats by its seeds, absconding with state secrets. Your spine has achieved tapioca consistency, vertebrae now self-governing entities. Historians agree on one thing: every civilization falls, eventually, into the same warm, lavender-stained nap. You press palms to sun-warmed earth. Crumbled soil holds the memory of hobnails. Medieval drovers marched here, their donkeys laden with lavender sacks, bound for Canterbury's apothecaries. Your thumb traces a groove in the dirt, perfect imprint for a boot that dissolved centuries ago. Historians found 12th century sandal leather preserved in bogs, still reeking of sweat and crushed time. Wind sifts through your hair, carrying phantom creaks of a long-gone wagon wheel. They say pilgrims stuffed herbs in their shoes, not for blisters, but to confuse highwaymen's hounds. You wiggle bare toes, modern rebellion against a world that wears too many layers. Your heel sinks, unearthing a pottery shard, blue glaze cracked like a dried-up river. Leatherworkers once boiled lavender with tallow, supposedly made boots, wholly adjacent. After 60 leagues, you sniff faintly, detect only sunscreen and your own questionable life decisions. A bee lands where a calloused thumb once gripped a pilgrim staff. Their cargo differs now: nectar instead of indulgences. Same desperate commerce. Shadows lengthen, stretching dark fingers over time patches trampled by medieval squires. Your elbows graze wild chamomile, its apple sweet sting an apology for time's passage. Beneath you, half the field lies in what was once a charterhouse latrine. Archaeologists debate whether monks composted lavender stalks or just enjoyed the irony. Cicadas mimic the rasp of a blacksmith's whetstone constant, urgent, completely misreading the vibe. You pocket the pottery fragment, petty theft from ghosts who'd likely laugh. That's the catch with history. Everyone thinks they're the first to discover loss. A gnat writes lazy eights above your nose, flight pattern of a drunk night jousting mist. Crusaders carried lavender in belt pouches, placebo against Saracen arrows, and existential dread, your own defenses. SPF 50 and an expired yoga membership. Soil shifts, centuries of compacted grief, and goat manure yielding to your weight. Folk tales claim walking barefoot here reveals your true trade: serf, minstrel, village idiot. Your soles tingle, leaning hard toward court jester without the job security. Clouds mimic limestone chalky and full of forgotten alphabets. You imagine a medieval teenager carving obscenities into this dirt, their laughter echoing yours. Butterflies hitch rides on thermal drafts, same as wool merchants once rode on tax exemptions. Ants storm your ankle, furry little Visigoths sacking Rome for the 3rd time today. You stay still, letting them proclaim victory in ticklish hieroglyphs. Lavender sways, its roots tangled with old hearth ash and broken lute strings, shin against a buried stone, the exact shape and temperature of communion bread. 13th century farmers buried boundary markers, hear their names eaten by rust. Your phone buzzes in your pocket, pulse out of sync with the field's heartbeat, ignored. Breeze carries a sneeze, yours, or a long-dead herbalist's. The Vatican once taxed lavender harvests, holy rake-off for a new stained glass window. Your fingers dig deeper, unearthing a snail shell spiral housing project from the Plantagenet era. Sunset stains the horizon, same burnt orange as a monk's neglected teeth. You've lain here long enough for your shadow to fossilize, partial reimbursement for borrowed time. Night insects rev their engines, replacing lute drones with sub-bass frequencies. Starlight pricks the sky, needles mending a moth-eaten tapestry. You exhale, breath fogging into a ghostly guild crest. Tomorrow's pilgrims will pass through, Bluetooth earbuds preloaded with Gregorian playlists. But tonight, for this caught breath, you're the relic, the curiosity, the punchline to a Latin joke no one remembers. Dawn licks dew from lavender crowns, each droplet a miniature of the Canterbury Cathedral's rose window. A worker bee circles your head, not the usual frantic zigzag, slow, ellipses that pluck at your eyelids. Her wings catch the light just right, translucent, stained glass with a caffeine buzz. Historians note Viking traders navigated using sunstones. You're pretty sure this one's GPS relies on nectar dividends and spite. She dips, carving figure eights so sharp they'd make a geometry monk weep. Your pupils track the pattern lazy, slurred loops that rebel against her precision. A 1920s Danish journal claimed bees' dance locations of rare bluebell fields, coordinates encoded in hip shakes. You blink, realizing the nearest florist is 6 miles away. And also, it's Tuesday. Muscle memory stirs, a twitch in your wrist, like tracing old breakup texts. The bee's abdomen pulses, a semaphore flag stuck between come hither and abandon all hope. Medieval peasants supposedly imitated these dances with sheaves of wheat, harvest rituals now lost to tractor manuals. Your pinky finger twirls, mocking both traditions with half-remembered disco moves. Sun climbs its heat, warms the back of your neck to forgotten oven mitt temperatures. The scout alters her path, tighter loops, urgent drags of leg hairs through pollen fog. Experts think drones use the sun's angle as a compass. Solar punk before steam engines ruined everything. You squint upward, spotting 2 contrails writing corporate logos across the stratosphere. A lazy aphid hitchhikes on your shoelace, kingdom negotiation through apathy. The bee's dance accelerates, wing beats sinking with a throbbing vein below your ear. 13th century beekeepers sang plainsong to hives, their basso, profundo vibrations meant to calm the royal court. Your hum comes out Pepsi commercial, a jingle for entropy. Shadows shrink stretching the figure eight into elongated infinity symbols. You once read about Babylonian merchants using similar shapes in tax ledgers, honey bribes for crooked officials. The bee zips northward, her path a dotted line even a medieval fool could follow. Your legs refuse to stand, prioritizing nap geometry over bluebell pilgrimage. Wind flips a petal onto your knee purple flag of surrender. Historians still argue whether Byzantine beekeepers encrypted messages in swarm patterns or just really loved interpretive dance. The scout dives, her thorax skimming your eyebrow like a comet's tail. You imagine warning shouts in Asiatic, all vowels and venom. Ants rediscover your ankle their march, punctuated by pollen detours and existential doubts. The bee's dance becomes shorthand, a blurred glyph in the air's margin. Your childhood cat used to chase such things. May he hunt photon mice in Valhalla. A gnat writes its manifesto in your left ear, too quiet for revolution. Lavender stems creak, nature's oldest doorstoics, judging your life choices. The scout retreats her mission, aborted by your catastrophic chill vibes. Modern apiaries use robotic dancers to direct hives, tiny waltzing Roomba Casanovas. You try a jazz hands flourish. The bee responds by buzzing the opening riff of smells like teen spirit. Light shifts gold to butter to the pale yellow of night's shield polish. Your tongue tastes of sleep deprivation and the last gasps of breakfast mint. That Danish journal's author went mad in 1934, spent weeks trying to tap question replies to moth wings. You nod, the universal I get it, between people, 2 missed meals from delirium. The bee alights on your knuckle, 6 legs, conducting an orchestra of static electricity. Her eyes hold fractured skies. Yours hold expired contacts and petulant refusal. Workers used to believe hive dances could predict storms, medieval meteorology via tipsy honey cartographers, thunder rumbles, or maybe your stomach. Same difference. A spider repels from your earlobe silken bailout from bad decisions. The scout's antennae quiver, transmitting Morse code even the dumbest privy digger could parse. You exhale breath, scattering a dandelion seed army mid-invasion. Somewhere, a bluebell patch sighs in relief. Count 67 wing beats, the exact number of Hail Marys required to atone for stealing monastery honey. The bee departs, her figure eight collapsing like a dropped lute string. You sprawl deeper into time, your personal declaration of unimportance. Let robots guide the hives. Let Danes decipher dances. Let bluebells die unfound. Noon coagulates, thick and sticky as mead forgotten in a king's saddlebag. Your spine imprints the word sloth into the soil future archaeologists riddle. Cicadas rev their engines, heavy metal cover of a blacksmith's love ballad. The scout's path lingers in the air, a chalk outline where ambition briefly died. Fingers brush foxglove, bell-shaped coffins for dead wasps and one's potential. You carve a figure eight in the dirt, flawed, asymmetrical, perfectly illegible. Historians still argue whether Neolithic tribes used bead dances in early writing systems. Your magnum opus awaits the next rain, washed away like a tax cheat's ledger. A ladybug conga lines across your wrist, dots like mini crusader shields. The sun pries open your jaw, pours light down your throat. Honey without the work. You hum something feudal, whether hymn or tavern ditty depends on who's judging. Above, the scout vanishes into thermal waves, her secret coordinates erased by the bluff of heat. Muscle by muscle, you dissolve into the dirt's crude tapestry. One more blurred stitch. Let the bluebells thrive unseen. Let the dances spin unread. Let the hive keep its damn secrets. Your eyelids etch hieroglyphs only snores can translate. Somewhere beyond the field, an overpriced latte awaits your return. It can wait. Night unspools its chill. The first frost feathers across lavender spikes, like lace on a bankrupt lord's collar. Your breath hangs visible, a ghost, rehearsing its final speech. Crunching one purple head releases cold so sharp, it's like biting a diamond made of February. 11th century monks documented frost patterns as winter psalms. You're pretty sure this one spells, go the fuck inside. A spiderweb glazes over beside your knee, strands stiff as cathedral ironwork. Your fingers hover, close enough to feel the captured moonlight humming through frozen silk. Archaeologists found Viking schists carved with frost sigils, attempts to haggle with blizzards via rock graffiti. You trace a meaningless squiggle, your own negotiation, for 5 more minutes of masochistic tranquility. Teeth chatter Morse code, your jaws revolt against poetic suffering. Lavender bends under crystal weight, blooms bowing like courtiers to an invisible king. That one ant insisted frost was fairy dandruff. Her DNA lives on in your suppressed snort. Honeybees cluster underground now, their winter ballroom vibrating with shivers and shared calories. A blackberry bramble rattles, leaves fossilized into stained glass shards. Your nostril hairs stage a mutiny, icing up like miniature suspension bridges. Tudor apothecaries sold frost scrapings as virgin snow for melancholiacs, 60 shillings an ounce. You lick a leaf, regrets cheap at least. Starlight amplifies the cold, each pinprick, a snarky comment from the cosmos. Your toes debate divorce proceedings, little anarchists rejecting the tyranny of shoes. Historians still argue whether medieval frost fairs sold lavender ice cream or just hypothermia with a side of lute music. A lone cricket rasps, its last stand against seasonal inevitability. Moonlight fractures through iced petals, projecting snowflake patterns on your cheeks. You blink, suddenly part of a silent film where everyone dies poetically. Renaissance nobles believed frost purified the air of peasant stink. Their noses would have melted off here. A pinecone drops, its thud too loud in the crystallized hush. Wind steals your next breath, a petty thief with Norse underworld connections. Collar stiffens fabric, transformed into salted cod skin. Your childhood sled whispers from the garage dimension of memory, warped wood, and tetanus. 17th century windmills froze mid-spin, their owners posted beware of falling icicle swords notices. Cheek meets frozen earth, a clumsy kiss for Lady Permafrost. Eyelashes graft ice microgems. Blink too fast, and you'll face slap a snow queen. That tick-toker who ate a glacier chunk for views. You finally get it, desperation tastes like ancient compacted vanity. Blood moves like chilled honey. Charles Dickens's publishers demanded 10% less toil in his winter scenes. Your pinky nail turns opal body's white flag, hoisted half-heartedly. A shrew's tracks stitch across the field, drunken embroidery, rejecting linear sanity. Dawn puckers the horizon, weak tea infusion, seeping through cloud strainers. Frost retreats, not with grandeur, but the pathetic mumble of a pickpocket caught mid-grab. You exhale relief. It billows as a cumulonimbus of poor life choices. Tudor frost wine was just grape slushies with extra corpses pass. Muscles creak upright, each joint protesting like a medieval parliament. Lavender untwists slowly, botanical yoga after a cryotherapy binge. Your shadow stretches, an accusatory finger pointing toward the distant promise of cocoa. Sun grudgingly pries night's fingers off the field. Gold spreads like a bailiff, reclaiming debt. One frozen beak glints on a stalk, amber paperweight holding down winter's first memo. You pocket it, as if preservation rewrites seasons. Fat chants, but the manor house of delusion has many spare rooms. Frost lingers in shadows, thin lies that'll dissolve by noon. Your footprints collapse behind you, erased evidence of this brittle communion. Groundskeeper pamphlets from 1803 warned against frost familiars, ice imps that nip your heels into old age. A crow laughs, its breath smoking like a Victorian factory owner. Thaw's first drip hits your neck, betrayal masquerading as progress. The bee in your palm weeps a single liquid diamond, or maybe that's your nose. Ants emerge, tiny revolutionaries seizing the melt for their own inscrutable manifestos. You crunch homeward, each step a negotiation between frostbite and dignity. Lingering cold hugs your ribs, proof you lingered where warmth dared not. Thatched cottages huddle ahead, their chimneys exhaling woolly promises of fires gone out. Your frozen bee thaws, wings unfolding a damp map to nowhere worth finding. Frost's lesson settles without fanfare. Everything beautiful's a rehearsed ephemera, except maybe Pop-Tarts. Heathen mittens await, their acrylic fibers singing hymns to indoor privilege. Last night's crisp monologue, already revising itself into slush memoir. You glance back, the lavender field shrugs, its secrets iced over until spring's interrogation. A church bell clangs, or maybe two crystallized branches high-fiving. Either way, time to abandon poetry for toasters. Moonlight bleeds the world to blueprint. Lavender, rose now graph paper for star-charted obsessions. Your boot sinks into mud, cold sludge, seeping through 3 layers of socks. 14th century farmers planted by lunar cycles. Tonight's waxing gibbous. Wood had them sowing lentils and regret. A bee brushes your ear, its hum slurs like a drunk violinist mid-lullaby. Dew beads on your sleeve, each droplet holds a flattened moon. You tilt your arm, liquid pearls roll toward the elbow, tiny chariots fleeing the wrist's tyranny. Medieval apothecaries prized midnight dew. They'd scrape it off cabbages with silver spoons. Not that you'd eat salad straight from a monk's pocket. The hive looms, its wooden curves gone spectral under the lunar wash. Your breath hitches, not from cold, from the sheer audacity of stillness. A bestiary from 1283 insists bees carrying moonlit do grant prophetic dreams yours. Just grant existential dread. Shadow bees cling to combs, their wings glazed like stained glass in a cheap cathedral. Pollen clumps float lazily, golden dust motes trapped in a slow-mo rave. You count 12 before recalling numbers don't matter here. Cobwebs sag with moisture. Their architects vanished into some 8-legged witness protection program. Historians still argue whether monastic hives hummed vespers or curse words during lunar eclipses. Your nose inches from a wet blossom, its scent turned metallic by moonlight. Sniff too hard, and you'll mainline lavender's ghost rather than its essence. A bead of nectar trembles, suspended like the last word of a dead poet. Tudor beekeepers smoked hives with dried applewood. You'd settle for one puff of not freezing. Kneecaps protest the mud sentiment mirrored by a frog's resentful croak nearby. Dew soaks through denim, your thighs now marinating in regret and well water. That influencer who meditated in a dew pond for clicks, you finally understand. Public humiliations warmer than this private nonsense. Moonlight fractures through a bead on your lashes. The world splinters into prismatic lies. Blink shards rearrange. Nothing fixes itself. Just pretends to. A bee staggers past, legs heavy with pretend purpose. Medieval poets called night bees moon priests. They probably died young from metaphors and poor nutrition. Wind riffles the field, a sound like God thumbing through a Rolodex of regrets. Ears ache, cold's vice grip masquerading as cosmic affection. You squint at the hive. Its entrance yawns like a black hole with daddy issues. Palm pressed to damp soil, ground thrums with hive mind heartbeat, or maybe tinnitus. Can't tell any more. Mysticism and hypothermia share symptoms. Your teeth chatter, Morse code for abort mission. By space heater, right mom. An Elizabethan manuscript claims beehives predicted the Spanish Armada. They definitely didn't predict your bad life choices. A droplet lands on your neck, tracks down the spine like a timid explorer. Shiver mirrors the bee's vibration. Involuntary communion with things that shouldn't care. Your shadow stretches, elongated and wavering, a funhouse version of your better self. 17th century astronomers mapped lunar Maria with beeswax models. None survived July. Lips chap, you lick them. Taste iron and stolen moonlight. A bee spirals past its thorax, glistening like a battle helm from a forgotten siege. Air thickens, mist rises, as the earth exhales its chilled secrets. Historians swear Bavarian monks trained bees to fetch communion wafers. Press X to doubt. Fingertips brush a drenched petal, it recoils. Or maybe you imagined agency in the void. Either way, the gesture feels invasive, like reading someone else's diary with a flashlight. Dew soaks your cuffs. Fabric stiffens into Victorian collar realness. That TED talk about lunar agriculture turns out dirt doesn't care about your PowerPoints. Vision blurs. The field becomes a Monet painting, sneered at by art snobs. Blink rapidly. Details return sharper, meaner, hungrier. A beetle traverses your shoelace, its journey more purposeful than your entire LinkedIn profile. Cold crystallizes in your nostrils, each breath a mini polar plunge for the sinuses. You rise, knees popping like Vienna sausage casings. The hive hums lower now, a bass note felt in the dental fillings. Moonlight puddles in your footprints, transient markers on a smuggler's map to nowhere useful. Dawn lingers hours away, the horizons just a rumor told by optimistic sparrows. Your pocket warms the frozen bee from section 15. Its wings crackle like cellophane. Historians still argue whether freezing precious insects counts as taxidermy or hoarding. Either way, your future therapist will bill by the hour. One final look, the field's silver veneer fading like cheap hair dye. Bees retreat deeper, their moonlit shift ending with neither applause nor pensions. You turn homeward, dew squelching in shoes that'll never forgive tonight's choices. Toaster waffles await their honeyed squares, a sacrament even monks would have envied. Wind licks through brittle stalks. Their rattle scratches the air like a kindergarten tambourine section. You mimic the rhythm, chapped lips parting, but no sound emerges, just more November. Medieval herbalists stuffed sickroom mattresses with dried lavender, though history skips how many patients died from pollen-induced sneezing fits. Your boot crushes a stalk. It snaps like a bone from an ill-fated wish. A gust plucks 3 seed heads. They skitter sideways like paranoid crabs. You follow, because what's pride when autumn's this bored? 14th century Marseille exported lavender stalks as fishing lures. Turns out eels dig floral aromas, or medieval merchants lied. Either way, your dignity's already halfway to the compost heap. Skeletons of blooms click together, nature's version of a stage whisper. You tilt your head, inhale dust, and the ghost of July's perfume. Historians still argue whether crusaders packed lavender sachets for armor chafing or cavalry courtship. The wind answers by flinging dirt in your left eye. Fingers brush a desiccated stem. Its thorns crumble like burnt toast. Agriculture fact: lavender's drought resistant. Existential fact: you're now jealous of a plant's coping skills. A beetle carcass lies gutted by sparrows, or karma. Hard to tell in this light, your shadow stretches gaunt across the field, a stick figure caricature drafted by a bitter artist. Air tastes of wood smoke and the neighbor's Wi-Fi name. Ye Old LAN Party, an 1897 French treatise claims dry lavender stalks predict winter severity. Tonight's cracks suggest nuclear January. Pebbles skitter into your shoe, annoyance, rendered in geological Morse code. You kneel, palm grinding into what might be petrified goat dung. Tudor housewives burned lavender stalks to ward off plague and possibly fun. Ash sticks to your jeans, charcoal streaks mocking your life decisions. Wind crescendos. The field becomes a deranged marionette show. Stalks whip your shins, payback for that pesticide incident in Section 9. A seed pod lodges in your collar. It itches like passive-aggressive commentary, that viral TikTok trend about nature's musicals. The algorithm never warned you about this tenor section. Moon wedges between clouds. Its light leaches color until everything's a Depression-era photo. You pivot. Stalk fragments crunch like sarcastic popcorn. A 1920s Berlin cabaret used dried lavender as percussion. Unclear if Nazis ended that. History's full of bad endings and worse encores. Teeth grit against a new gust. Lips chap further, bloods just nature's lip balm. Field mice rustle nearby, their tiny debates about your intrusiveness, almost poetic. Medieval leech books prescribed lavender ash for melancholic vapors. Your therapist would charge extra for this. Fingernails dig into your palm, half against cold, half to feel something authentic. Wind rips a button from your coat. You watch it roll into oblivion. 17th century perfumers wore lavender stalk rings to mask corpse stench at executions. Modern pro tip: Ziploc bags work better. A stalk jabs your earlobe. Revenge for all those plants aren't sentient jokes. Blood wells, warm against the chill, a perverse comfort. Historians whisper about a leaner of Aquitaine's lavender stalk hairpins, practical, or early bug surveillance. The wind steals the answer, along with your last shred of patience. Breath fogs, each exhalation a transient ghost with commitment issues. You count 17 seconds between gusts. Give up at 6. Enlightenment's overrated. Renaissance painters ground lavender stalks into pigment. They're Madonnas, forever sniffing holy allergies. Horizon bruises purple, storm or sundown. You're too tired for meteorology. Knees rise from the dirt, mud, now a second skin. That TEDx talk on embracing nature's rhythms. Speaker clearly never kneeled on a thistle. Wind dies abruptly. Silence rings louder than monastery bells. Your ears pop, balance wobbles, dignity's a distant memory. A single stalk remains upright, frail. Stubborn, your spirit plant. You snap it, Pocket the broken end to petty theft as self-help. Footprints fade behind you, soils amnesia in real time. Tongue probes the blood on your lip, metallic, alive, annoyingly poetic. Somewhere, a sparrow drags a lavender stalk twice its size. Solidarity, little dude. Your boot sole grinds into soil where rosemary once grew in militant rows, now just a rumor of scent under your heel. Crushed clay pots pepper the earth like broken commandments, their curves still cradling phantom roots. 16th century herbwomen wore lavender stalk belts to ward off malignant airs, though records disagree whether that meant plagues or bad dates. A thorn nicks your thumb, blood beads black in the fading light. You press it to your tongue iron, and the memory of rusted garden shears, medieval midwives buried afterbirth under lavender bushes. A practice modern homeopaths Instagram about with unsettling enthusiasm. Wind riffles through your hair, carrying nothing but the ambition to be noticed. Pebbles shift under your knees, their clatter echoes a long-dead woman's mortar-grinding valerian root. You sift dirt through splayed fingers, half expecting to find her fingernail clippings. Historians still argue whether herb gardens doubled as early chemistry labs or witchcraft showrooms. A beetle trundles over your knuckle-tiny legs, telegraphing judgment in Morse code. Moonlight bleaches a patch of soil white. Your shadow becomes an ink blot test scored by owls. You recall Sister Mathilda's 1383 herbal, that absurd recipe using lavender ash and goat urine as night cream. A root cracks under your palm. Its splintered edge whispers, "You weren't invited here." 3 dried stalks rise like accusatory fingers near your left knee. You snap one, its brittle protest lost beneath a passing truck's baseline. Apothecary apprentices once licked lavender tinctures to prove loyalty. If they gagged, they were lying. Your tongue glues itself to the roof of your mouth, just in case. Damp seeps through your jeans, groundwater, or the ghost of watered gardens. No difference now. A shard of delftware pricks your index finger, centuries of grime blending with fresh blood. Tudor herbalists labeled lavender spica, mistaking its blooms for wheat heads. You label this moment regret with optional tetanus. Wind unearths a chicken bone, or maybe a human finger bone. Best not to Google Lens it. Your phone dies as you reach for it, modernity's white flag. Medieval cunning women brewed lavender into truth wine, a fact never mentioned on Vineyard Tour. You're suddenly grateful for your dehydration. Teeth chatter, a metronome for this wilted waltz. You dig deeper, hitting a stratum of oyster shells someone once thought fertilizer. A 1693 Essex trial accused a herbwife of hexing turnips. The court transcript reads like a food critic's meltdown. Your stomach growls, treasonously loud in the silence. Palms upturned now, moonlight pools in your lifelines like liquid pewter. Did she sit here back when arthritis wasn't a metaphor? A cicada shell clings to your sleeve, papery and perfect, like the herbalists, pressed specimens, 17 seconds pass, or 17 minutes times just another root to yank up. A car alarm wails in the distance, God's answer to monastic chants. You pocket a shard of pottery glazed with 400-year-old fingerprints. Renaissance herbals claimed lavender could make shy husbands bold as stags, a lie as old as marriage itself. Footsteps rustle beyond the fence. Or is it your own pulse in your ears? You freeze, chin dipped like a penitent. Archaeologists found dandelion pollen in Anne Boleyn's prayer book, pressed beside psalms about mortality. Coincidence? Or a herbalist's last joke? The wind offers a standing ovation. No encore requested. Dawn bleeds at the horizon, pink seeping into the earth's gray. Knees creak as you rise 2 more fossils for future dig sites. Somewhere, a nightshade plant preens in the half-light, smug about outlasting all these apothecary dreams. You brush dirt from your palms. The motion feels borrowed from some ancestral muscle memory. A leaf fragment clings to your wrist, veined like your own blue highways. Oxford scholars recently carbon dated a lavender sachet to Richard III's reign. Turns out even hunchbacks wanted good laundry days. The first bird call pierces the gloom, a single note rehearsed since the Crusades. Your shadow stretches east, impossibly long, a funhouse mirror of the self you parked by the roadside. Historians still debate whether herbwomen died out or just learned to hide better. A plane blinks overhead. You flip it off with your non-bloody hand. Thumb finds the hole in your coat pocket, frayed edges, whispering this is how things leave us. You turn. A single stalk sways where your knees dented the ground. Maybe it bows. Maybe the wind's just an asshole. Either way, you're already walking. Rain sheets the lavender into 1,000 nodding mourners, their purple heads heavy with unwanted baptism. The creek bursts its banks, water swallowing fence posts like they're stalks of overgrown celery. Historians note this valley flooded twice during the Little Ice Age. Peasants blamed it on God's indigestion from bad sacramental wine. Your boots slurp mud with each step, nature's wet handshake. Hives tilt in the current waxen arcs, carrying drowsy cargo. One drifts close enough to touch, workers cluster on its roof, wings too soaked to fan threats. A 14th century monk's diary claims he floated across a flooded cloister on a hive. Modern apiarists call it biological nonsense. You test the water's depth with a stick, instant regret as cold bleeds through your soul. Thunder rips the sky, not a sound, but a texture felt in your molars. Lightning reveals the field's new geography. Ditches become canals. Stone walls reduced to reef-like shadows. Renaissance flood maps showed lavender plots as DEVILS Chinese letter basins, though historians still debate whether monks planted it to absorb floodwaters. Water sluices down your collar, shockingly indifferent to your personal boundaries. A hive capsizes. Its hexagonal chambers gulp air before sinking. Bees swirl in eddies, their buzz now a submarine hum. You once read about a Dutchman who tried patenting beehive rafts in 1632. Investment prospects drowned faster than his prototypes. Your toes curl inside soggy socks, a petty rebellion against the inevitable. The storm smudges time. Dawn could be dusk, drizzle could be spray from a passing freighter. You wade toward higher ground, each step surrendering a shoe to the mud's suck. A queen bee clings to your sleeve, her abdomen pulsing like a metronome set to adagio. Tudor law fined farmers who moved hives during floods, as if bees care about property lines. Rain drills your scalp, an aggressive scalp massage from a masseuse who skipped lunch. Another hive bobs past, its occupants too waterlogged to protest. Archaeologists found preserved bees in a Viking Age flood layer, their wings still glazed with bog myrtle pollen. You spit out a mouthful of rain, taste ancient swamps and someone's rusted gutters. Knee-deep now, water swirls with uprooted thyme and someone's lost flip-flop. The current writes cryptic messages against your calves, braille only fish could decipher. A 1920s esoteric text claimed flooded apiaries opened portals to Melisy realms. Be careful where you step. Your phone's in your pocket, a drowned brick blinking its last SOS. Lightning forks again, briefly illuminating a figure on the far bank, hooded or maybe just a snapped fence post in a tarpaulin shroud. Medieval flood victims were buried with lavender sachets, a floral life preserver for the afterlife. You blink, the shape's gone, replaced by the skeletal grin of a half-submerged wheelbarrow. The queen abandons your sleeve, her wings a blurred halo as she ascends. Worker bodies litter the water, fuzzy commas in a sentence no one's reading. Victorian newspapers blamed drunken bees for hive floods, proving journalism always been half fantasy. Your hips ache, cold seeping into joints that creak like warped floorboards. Dawn limps in gray light, revealing the lake that was once a field. Hives cluster near a drowned oak, survivors trading nectar for shelter. You recall a Byzantine poet comparing flooded apiaries to God's overturned honey jar. Theology's never been your forte. A bee drifts by, riding a clover leaf like a billionaire's yacht. Teeth chatter yours or the landscape's. Can't tell anymore. Your left shoe stays buried in the muck, a sodden sacrifice to the mud gods. Historians still argue whether medieval floods improved lavender yields or just gave monks an excuse for bad harvests. Water retreats, leaving the land bloated and glossy, a drunkard after last call. Sun breaks through, steam rises from hives, their wood sighing as it shrinks. Bees emerge, drying their wings in shaky sun salutations. You squelch toward the road, gait uneven, a puppet with half its strings cut. An ant floats past on a stick, tiny oars, paddling toward drier delusions. The queen's hive perches in a willow, comb glistening like a wet chandelier. Workers rebuild wax and resolve softening in the heat. You peel off your jacket, fabric so heavy it could anchor ships. Someone's barn door floats in the distance, painted red, a cherry cough drop melting in tea. Clouds part fully now, light stabs your retinas, cruel in its cheerfulness. Your sock leaves a damp footprint on asphalt, evaporating before you finish the step. A bee lands on your wrist, cleans its antennae, flies off smelling of silt and second chances. You keep walking, the road's spine leading west, away from the scarred earth. The last puddle mirrors the sky, a perfect circle of blue guzzled by cracked soil. Your shadow stretches, finally dry, finally quiet. Somewhere downstream, the lost hive strikes a rock, its honey bleeding amber into the current. You hum a lullaby, the notes dissolving before they reach your ears. The swarm comes at noon, a vibrating curtain drawn across the sun. 40,000 wings turn daylight into something borrowed, something haunted. Your neck prickles, not from fear, but the air itself humming like a plucked cello string. Medieval chronicles blamed bee exoduses on sinful beekeepers during the Black Death. They called swarms plague veils, fluttering toward judgment. You stand very still, the way your third-grade teacher advised during wasp encounters. A scout bee orbits your head, tracing a figure eight even Einstein couldn't untangle. Workers brush your arms, legs, the back of your neck. Tiny tax assessors checking for nectar reserves. A 17th century merchant once followed a swarm for 3 days, convinced they'd lead him to buried gold. All he got was stung and a newfound allergy to hubris. The queen passes overhead, a comma-shaped shadow trailed by devotion. Her pheromones bend the swarm's path, a living river diverted by unseen banks. Historians still argue whether Renaissance hives swarmed more frequently, or just better documented by monks with a flair for drama. Your ears fill with the sound of lifted anchors, of sails made from thoracic vibrations. Someone's wind chime clatters in the distance, a dissonant chord against the swarm's basso continuo. Bees spiral upward, their collective weightlessness defying last night's flood-mired ground. You remember reading that Napoleon's coronation robe was embroidered with golden bees, a detail that feels both ridiculous and poignant now. Sunlight glints off abdicating workers, their bodies like dismissed coins from a broken vault. The roar dwindles first to a murmur, then to the static of a detuned radio. A straggler clings to your shoelace, abdomen pulsing as it syncs with the retreating signal. Victorian entomologists wrote breathlessly of hive mind, never guessing we'd steal the term for internet hot takes. You marvel at its wings, translucent sails optimized by eons, still inferior to a paper airplane's slapdash grace. Silence leaks back, the kind that follows a symphony's final note. Your lungs uncinch had you been holding your breath. The field looks unbalanced, like a portrait with its subject cut out. An 1894 beekeeping manual advised singing Gregorian chants to prevent swarms. Pro tip: it doesn't work. You hum a single low note, testing if the air's still fertile for sound. Only 3 bees remain, drunkenly looping the drained hive's wreckage. One stumbles over a waterlogged petal, rights itself with the dignity of a disgraced ballerina. Archaeologists found charred hives in Pompeii, bees persevering until the ash overcame them. You kneel, offering a mud-caked palm, but they ignore your Shakespearean bid for tragedy. Light shifts, the swarm now a smudge on the horizon. A pencil sketch erased mid-stroke. Your shadow stretches east, their cloud drifts west. Somewhere in the middle, arithmetic fails. A Cold War experiment trained bees to detect explosives, though historians still argue whether any actually read the classified memos. You count remaining hives: 3, 5, no 4. Then let the numbers bleed together. Wind riffles through abandoned combs, hexagons echoing like panpipes. A worker deposits a final load of lavender pollen, dutifully upholding contracts signed before the flood. Your ears ring with phantom buzzing, the oral equivalent of a phantom limb. 17 minutes pass, or maybe 70. Time curdles in the aftermath. Dew forms on empty honey cells, nature's apology, note written in condensation. You lick a finger, taste the metallic tang of a storm long departed. That Dutch raft inventor. He later claimed bees whispered stock tips during delirium tremens, emphasis on delirium. Your pockets sag with the weight of nothing useful keys. Lint, a resignation letter to productivity. The last bees vanish, taking their payroll of pollen and purpose with them. Clouds mirror the swarm's motion, sheep-like and directionless. You inhale air that feels second-hand, filtered through a million dismissed wings. Modern Reiki practitioners use bee vibration healing. Sadly, today's session ends with a sneeze. Twilight arrives early, as if the sky's compensating for the day's theatrics. Your left shoelace remains bee-tagged, a souvenir too absurd to explain back home. Mothers in the 1300s tucked dried swarm fragments into cribs, believing buzzing warded off crib death. You snap a photo. The blurry speck might be a bee, might be dust, might be a ghost audit. Stars emerge 1, then 12, then more than your civic duty to count. The vanished hive's outline lingers in the grass, a chalkless crime scene. Your knees crack as you rise, a biological punchline to the day's solemn exodus. Somewhere over the ridge, the queen plants her standard in foreign soil, her court already drafting new loyalty oaths. You pocket a fallen comb fragment, wax gone malleable in your warmth. It smells of lavender and interrupted legacies, of aren't we all just passing through. The field exhales, releasing you from its witness stand. Historians still argue whether swarms signaled divine wrath or diesel engine innovation. But right now, you just miss the noise. Moonlight smooths the chaos into something picturesque, a postcard waiting for a trite caption, your footsteps home squelch, each imprint a diminishing echo of the swarm's roar. A single worker bee circles your head once, twice, before zipping north toward tomorrow's scandals. You unclench your jaw, realizing you'd been holding the shape of a goodbye. Blisters rise on your heels as you approach the west facade, Chartres. Stone saints loom, their hemlines crawling with wings. 13th century masons built recesses into sculptures, secret ledges where hives could nestle. Though whether for honey harvests or holy symbology, historians still argue. Your neck cranes. Above Saint Modesta's faded smile, bees pour from her sleeve cuff like liquid heresy. Incense smoke tangles with propolis fumes. Your sinuses stage a mutiny. Workers weave through stained glass light, their bodies staining the air gold, red, cobalt. A nun's 1480 diary claims cathedral bees hummed the Veni Creator Spiritus during Pentecost, then stung a rowdy aristocrat's groin. Your chuckle bounces off fluted pillars, mingling with the hive's lazy drone. Dust motes swirl where pilgrims once knelt, now just you, and a security guard texting in the transept. Scorch marks mar the North Isle bees, rebuilt their wax citadels within a year of the 2019 fire. Their combs cling to Joan of Arc's shield, faint hexagons pressed against her steel. You press a palm to cold stone, the vibration might be organ music, or 10,000 wings reciting old gossip. A drone lands on St. Denis' severed neck, its abdomen pulsing like a misplaced carotid. Medieval beekeepers wore their keys as hive tools, jangling warnings before inspections. Your house key feels suddenly inadequate, a flimsy metal afterthought to this gilded buzz. High above, a stonecarver hid a self-portrait among the gargoyles, his face half melted into a worker bee's thorax. Tourists never spot it, but the drones congregate there, rubbing antennae against his lichen-stained grin. You squint. Is that a chisel in his hand, or a smoker's bellows? Twilight blurs the answer. Honey drips down a martyr's stony toe, collecting in a candle holder's crusted wax. Your finger swipes the amber streak. The taste floods you clover, linden blossoms. A faint tang of leaded glass. 16th century choristers used it to soothe throats, though sopranos feared the honeyed hex of off-key notes. The guard yawns, his walkie-talkie crackles static. Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, ringtone slicing through sacred air. Bees ignore him, their dances charting routes to rooftop ivy. Not Freddie Mercury, a forager bumps your ear, her pollen baskets bursting with rose window dust. You resist the itch. Saint statues have tolerated worse for centuries. Someone scraped ML 1523 into a column. Bees festoon the numbers with fresh comb, mason's marks, or a lovelorn monk's initials. The hive doesn't care, sealing the graffiti under wax better than any confession. Your phone buzzes, a calendar alert for your dentist, modernity's own swarm of obligations, candlelight guilds the South Apps, hives crouch in apostles' shadows like furry apostles themselves. A worker cleans her wings on St. Peter's keys, meticulous strokes that shame your rushed morning showers. Franciscans once petitioned to evict the hives, until a miraculous honey harvest funded their soup kitchen. Your stomach growls, sacrilegious, yet honest. The guard lurches toward the gift shop keys, jingling bees trailing him like disgruntled parishioners. Alone now, you touch a spiral column worn smooth by 8 centuries of palms. The hive's pitch rises, not angry, adjusting their hymn to the vault's acoustics. Notre Dame's roof may have burned, but the bees kept the blueprints. Dusk seeps through nave windows. Bees retreat to their stone alcoves, each hexagon a tiny cloister. A latecomer bumps your cheek, her legs heavy with orange park pollen. You imagine her commute, 97 wing beats from the Luxembourg Gardens. A straight shot down Rue de la Boucherie. The security lights flicker on hives glow like amber reliquaries. Their queens, the only saints still breathing. Your reflection warps in a collection box's brass plate, face rippling, features dissolving into the swarm behind you. A child's coin clicks into the slot. The sound triggers hive-adjacent déjà vu. Did medieval worshippers hear this same metallic clink? While workers taxied communion wine dregs, the bees offer no receipts. Only the IRS could love their accounting. Moonlight silver gilds the rude screen bees huddle in Judith's fist, her sword arm cradling wax infants. A droplet falls, honey or condensation. You'll never know, but your lifted finger comes away sticky. The guard's radio sputters. Someone's ordering a kebab. The bees tilt their antennae judges of this modern vespers. Cold seeps through your souls, centuries of crypt damp rising into kneelers. Your breath fogs a hexagonal tile, its pattern matching the hive above. Architects stole from bees, or bees from architects. The organ groans, its lowest pipe vibrating in swarm-perfect unison. Dawn scratches the east window. Stained glass apostles gain their halos. And you lose your excuses. The exit yawns its doors, still scarred from Revolution-era axe blows. One last bee grazes your wrist, depositing a fleck of rose window red. The guard winks. He's seen weirder relics. Outside, a tour guide claims Charlemagne's ghost tends the hives, complete with apiarist veil. Your pocket vibrates, the comb fragment from yesterday's swarm, still warm, still singing. Traffic noise floods back, but under the honks, a fading buzz, like a cathedral exhaling. Bare heels meet sun-warmed earth, the soil gives like fresh rye dough. Laughter trills, high and bright, but when you turn, only bees bob between lavender stalks. Your souls recognize this path, not from memory, but from deeper grooves. Children's feet once wore trails here, their games older than the abbey's foundation. Historians still argue whether medieval kids played tag or just fled chores. A pebble wedges between your toes. You shake it loose. Feel it click against something buried. Glinting green emerges. A corroded thimble. Tudor rose motif still visible. 16th century mothers sewed these into hymns as stolen child talismans. Yours stays pocketed. Modern curses demand credit card numbers, not rusty crafts. Cicadas thrum their rhythm syncing with distant combine harvesters. You kneel palm flat on packed earth and sense vibration. Not machinery, but a phantom game of hopscotch. Chalk diagrams once marked this dirt, washed away by 8 centuries of rain. Archaeologists found goat knuckle bones here, polished smooth from tiny hands. Your fingers brush clover. Imagine the click-clack of bone on stone. Wind carries a snippet of song, high-pitched, maybe a jump rope rhyme. Honeysuckle, clover sweet, 30 days, till harvest meet. Folklorists traced that tune to 1348, minus the original verse about plague boils. You hum along the B-flat, draws a curious drone. She hovers, a sentry judging your pitch, then zips off unimpressed. Shadows lengthen, your feet look borrowed, ghost child outlines overlapping your own. Sunburned tourists trudge the official path, but you've become the game. 3 hops left, pivot. 5 skips toward the crumbling wellhouse. Crushed lavender releases its scent, a burst of purple heat. Workers swirl around your ankles, their pollen sacs grazing skin like minuscule mittens. Your pinky toe stubs a half-buried tile, blue and white delft shards. A sheepdog's nose peeking from glaze. 17th century kids played tile toss here, betting pretzel sticks on ceramic fragments. This one's cold, though the noon sun bakes everything else. You pocket it, another relic for your growing hoard. Ants stream across your instep. Their highway runs where hopscotch squares once lay. 1 cargoes, a dead bee, shriveled wings, splayed like a tragic cape. You step over them, no desire to play Colossus today. Sweat slicks your temple, drips, hits soil with a starfish-shaped splat. The ground steams briefly before greedily swallowing the offering. You spy indentations ahead, toe prints fossilized in dried mud, adult-sized, but pressed deep, deliberate. Kneeling, you match your heel to the hollow. An ache blooms, not physical, ancestral. Medieval parents left these during foot-fasting rituals, binding children to fertile land. Modern lawyers would have sued over the blisters. Clouds bunch above, their bellies ripe, as overstuffed mattress ticking. First raindrops hit, warm, fat, exploding on baked earth like tiny flower bombs. You dance sideways, avoiding puddles that aren't there yet. Laughter bubbles up yours, theirs blurred by centuries of drizzle. A game of don't step on crack transcends eras. Your soaked shirt clings. Renaissance children's linen did the same. Thunder rumbles, not the menacing kind, more a stomach growl. You shelter under a mulberry, sticky fruit, staining the canopy overhead. Unripe berries plop into mud, nature's own marbles. Burgundian kids dyed their fingers purple here, gambling with sour prizes. Your teeth test one, tartness twists your face, same as a 10-year-old in 1412. The storm passes, leaving air thick enough to ladle. Sun returns, its glare hammers the lavender into submission. Your left heel's bleeding, a thorn souvenir from that wild pirouette. Scarlet beads, the soil, joining ancient iron, deposits from long-rusted plows. A bee investigates, her proboscis flicking. But blood's no substitute for nectar. Twilight's first fireflies emerge, their glow mirrors the abbey's distant windows. You kick off sandals, let night air kiss your soles. Coolness rises, carrying voices from the tourist lot. Mommy, why's that lady barefoot? No answer comes, just car doors slamming, engines revving toward TripAdvisor's next hotspot. Your toes squelch in mud now rich, fecund alive. Something spiral-shelled glints, a Roman coin, verdigreased beyond recognition. 3rd grade, you would have called it pirate treasure. 43-year-old, you debates reporting it, then pockets the lie. Moonlight waxes the lavender rose, their scent sharpened by rain. You twirl once, twice, dizzy as a medieval child after too much small beer. The bees sleep, but the path hums anyway, subsonic, vascular. Your blisters burst, blood and soil merging in the grooves. Tomorrow you'll scrub, but tonight you outstep chronology. A final skip lands you at the abbey wall, palms braced against cold stone. Your soles burn, raw, glorious. Behind the path sighs, releasing your borrowed laughter to the stars. The abbey wall's shadow drinks you whole, its stones exhale cellar breath. A warped door creaks, you follow gravity's pull-down moss-slick steps. Clay jugs line niches, bellies swollen with forgotten brews. Their stoppers weep rust, each tear staining the gray pottery skin. Your pinky traces a jug's curve, rough groove spell, Anno Domini 1543, in clumsy Latin. Monks brewed mead here, honey salvaged from hives they swore were blessed. Historians agree medieval monasteries perfected fermentation, though none mention the lavender undertaste still clinging to these walls. A bubble rises in the nearest vessel, plip, plip, the sound of ghosts clearing throats. Dust motes swirl caught between your eyelashes and the lone high window. You squint, red scratched tallies on mortar. 3 vertical lines, a diagonal slash, accounts of barrels blessed or spoiled. Workers would have kissed these marks, praying their winter ration didn't taste of feet. A joke surfaces. How many monks does it take to fix a mead vat? You swallow the punchline. Some heresies outlive their eras. Sunlight glints on a broken pipette, thin as a hummingbird's tongue. Your thumb fits the thumbprint preserved in its glass curve. Equal parts nectar and rain, plus herbs modern guides won't name. Folk recipes mention wolfsbane here, not for poison, but for visions. Scholars still argue whether those visions came from fungi or bad sanitation. You sniff the air scorch, sweetness, and the tang of unsupervised decisions. A jug rattles, its contents sloshing like lake water in a storm. You press your ear to cool clay, hear faint hissing. 20 years ago, archaeologists found a sealed one vinegar sharp enough to etch steel. The label read Sister Bridget's Morning Joy bulk orders from the local nunnery. Your nose wrinkles. Imagine waking to that throat-searing devotion. Your shirt catches on a barrel hoop, iron teeth snagging polyester. A tug-of-war ensues, fabric loses, surrendering a triangle of cloth. Middle Ages, 1. Modernity, 0. The exposed jug, beneath oozes black resin, fossilized honey turned to tar. Workers buried faulty batches under curses, or maybe just bad Yelp reviews. You pocket a crumb of wax seal. It smells like regret and bergamot. Shadows shift. The window's light now slices your ankles. You trace a crack in the wall, fingers come away sticky. Old mead, spiderweb sap. Both options feel equally plausible and unwise to taste. A draft winds through cracks, carrying a half-remembered drinking song. Oh, the abbeys brewed a barrel of something brown and scary. The rest dissolves, replaced by a fly's buzzing patrol. Your hip bumps a shelf, jug necks clink like nervous teeth. One tilts, you catch it, palm slick against its sweating surface. Condensation drips plink, plink, puddling around your toes. Cold seeps through calluses. The shock reminds you of licking frozen flagpoles. 8th grade regrets transcend timelines. Above boots scuff the abbey floor. Tourists debating Henry VII's divorce count. Their voices muffle. Muffler becomes drone, drone becomes the hum of ancient yeast. You close your eyes. The cellar air thickens, clings like a childhood blanket. Someone whispers a recipe, 2 parts clover honey, 1 part stolen sunlight. A jug cap pops, not from your hands. The sound ricochets, followed by slow gurgling. Your pulse thrums in your throat. Is this theft or invitation? Moonmilk veins the ceiling. Its glow outlines a submerged dipper. Tarnished, bent, poised like a question mark above the vessel. When did your knees hit dirt? The floor's dew seeps through denim, joins the puddle's expanding ring. Your reflection stares up, rippling older, younger, a stranger sipping from an invisible cup. Historians call this cellar mirage monks, just called it Tuesday. Sunset bleeds through the window, amber light firing the jugs to molten gold. You rise, legs prickling, and touch the least cracked vessel. Warmth radiates, or maybe imagination compensates for the mead you'll never taste. Your phone buzzes, a modern Hives alert, but stays buried in your pocket. Let TripAdvisor reviewers chase the living. You've got older spirits to disappoint. The steps creak louder on your ascent, each groan echoing those long ago monks hauling kegs. At the threshold, you hesitate. Fingertips brush a chalk smudge, faint, possibly a child's handprint from last week, possibly a brewer's mark from last millennium. Outside, the lavender buzzes louder, compensating for your hollow jug. Cool air hits your face, carries the scent of gasoline and lilacs. Car engines, bees, the mashup of then and now. You exhale, your breath holds the phantom weight of centuries-old honey. That bitter aftertaste. Just the modern world, always crashing the party. A worker bee lands on your wrist, her legs dusted with pollen, the color of old pennies. She explores your watch face, confused by its ticking. You whisper, "They used honey here, made something better than time." She flies off, unimpressed by metaphors, leaving your pulse as the only clock that matters. Snow licks your boots, each step squeaks like a mouse trapped in flour. The field lies buried, not dead, but holding its breath under white powder. Frost etches your lashes, blink, blink. The world becomes a stuttering film strip. You kneel, palms sinking through snow crust into brittle lavender skeletons. Below, deeper, warmth hums. Some claim medieval beekeepers wrapped hives in horsehair blankets, though your fingers find only frozen earth and patient roots. A vibration travels up your arm, slow, steady. The hive's heartbeat, continuing beneath winter's chokehold. Air catches in your throat, half mist, half awe. Historians still argue whether monasteries heated hives with coals or cow dung. You picture novice monks hauling buckets of steaming manure, their vows of silence sparing them commentary. Ice cracks under your knee. A jagged line maps your intrusion. Through the fracture, a glimpse of wax comb. Golden hexagons pulse faintly, be less, but alive with stored sunlight. 16th century manuscripts mention winter lights, monks burning honey candles to guide hibernating colonies. You exhale, your breath stirs a snowflake, sending it spiraling toward the wound in the frost. Something shifts below, a dark mass curls tighter. Cluster becomes fist, fist becomes stone. Workers huddle around their queen wingless, fed on summer's last dregs. Your textbook once called this cold stupor, but the thrum feels deliberate. A lullaby rehearsed for this white silencing. The cold seeps through your jeans. Numbness does that funny thing where pain becomes abstraction. You recall a German folktale, bees supposedly revive frozen neighbors by humming Middle C. A folklorist friend swears they vibrate at 110 Hz, same frequency as Chartres Cathedral's sacred geometry. You hum and immediately feel silly. Snow crunches behind you, a fox's loping gait. Then silence. Paw prints circle the burial mound of lavender. Pause. Retreat. Even predators respect the hive's fragile truce. Your teeth chatter a counter rhythm, Morse code for abort mission. Dusk comes early, violet seeps through the white like wine through linen. The snow globe effect, until wind razors your cheeks raw. You fumble for gloves, knock a snow chunk loose. The gap widens, revealing amber ooze between combs. January honey darker, thicker, laced with thyme from the monks' herb beds. A taste blooms in your mouth, not memory, but muscle, tongue against molars, the phantom slick of a long-ago sample. 13-year-old you stealing honeycomb from a country fair. The stall owner's yell still ringing in your sinuses. Gooey triumph. Your phone lights up, a friend's meme about Netflix, and chill blurred by cracked glass. The hive's glow dims, unimpressed by pixelated humor. You pocket the device, its buzz drowned by 10,000 sleeping metabolisms. Digging deeper, you hit clay, the monk's sloppy insulation job from 1496. Their thumbprints crater the frozen slabs, 5 centuries of grime filling the whorls. Archaeologists found similar tiles near Worcester Abbey, stained with propolis and mead spills. Your nail chips at the edge. It flakes, revealing a child's drawn sunbeam underneath. Wind howls, a tuneless counterpoint to the hive's drone. Snow snakes into your collar, melts, becomes a shiver down your spine. Workers deep below rotate positions, their duty cycle as precise as atomic clocks. No democracy, here just survival math. You collapse sideways, snowbank cradling your skull. Stars puncture the twilight, sharp as bee stings. A satellite crosses the belt of Orion, modern hive mind, buzzing in geostationary orbit. The real honey remains buried, indifferent to your comparisons. Mittens find the exposed comb, fingertips skating over sealed brood cells. Future queens sleep in gelatinous sarcophagi, dreams of unfurling wings in April air. A brittle sound escapes your lips, half sob, half laugh. You've never envied insects more. Moonlight catches the snowfield suddenly. It's 100 squillions of mites marching on a wedding cake. Then clarity returns, just frozen water and a shivering mammal. The hive's warmth feels mythical now, like dragons or reliable Wi-Fi. Dawn stains the horizon pink as raw royal jelly. Your legs creak upright, blood rushing to toes held captive by boots. The fox returns, plants itself 10 paces away. Its stare says you're terrible at wilderness survival. Fair. One last look at the snow-veiled hive. Steam puffs from the fissure, worker breath heating the breach. You shuffle backward, a reverse moonwalk over your own ruined footprints. Back on the path, tarmac peeks through black ice. Cars hiss by, drivers sipping coffee brewed from Ethiopian beans. Your hands smell of frost and ancient honey, sharp, sweet, undocumented. A vibration lingers in your molars, or maybe that's fatigue. By noon, the snow will slump, revealing green shoots already straining upward. The hive knows this, keeps its tempo steady. Thrum, thrum, a metronome counting down to Lavender's return. You walk faster, pulse syncing with the hidden machine. 2 clocks set to seasons instead of seconds. Your heel catches on thistles, you stumble, and unearth a circlet of brown petals. Brittle stems crumble between your fingers, purple turned to dust, white lace become cobweb. Mold blossoms where a bride's temple once pressed, green-gray, fuzzy, softly devouring memory. Medieval peasants wove these crowns from field blooms, a fertility charm, stinking of mud and hope. Yours disintegrates asymmetrically, 3 roses hanging limp on the left. Violets vanished entirely. Archaeologists once found a similar garland near Bordeaux, still wedged in a skull's jawbone. You try not to imagine the teeth. Wind tugs a petal loose. It skitters across snow like spider legs. Historians still argue whether brides chose their flowers or suffocated under tradition's bouquet. You trace the circlet's broken curve, no jewels, just stubborn burrs clinging to rotten twine. A bee carcass falls from the weave, desiccated, curled, like a comma mid-sentence. 16th century herbalists claimed bridal mold could cure ague, though your EMT friend would call that biological Russian roulette. You resist the urge to sniff it. Barely. Shadows stretch the crown into a grotesque size, momentarily. It's a laurel fit for giants. Then perspective snaps back, just decay. And your chapped thumb rubbing pollen ash. Someone's forever lies in your palm, crumbling faster than you can blink. Ice cracks underfoot, splitting the ground between past and present. The crown's remaining petals shiver, as if recalling sunlight and clumsy thumbs. A 1438 parish ledger lists 1 penny paid for nettle twine wreaths, but neglects to mention the blisters. Your phone buzzes, a dating app notification. The crown's mold glistens, unimpressed by modern courtship algorithms. You swipe left, smearing pollen across the screen. Kneeling disturbs the soil. Something metallic winks beneath frost. A rusted pin emerges, its tip stained blue from oxidized vows. 14th century grooms often gifted brass brooches, functional, until bloodstains turned them morbid. This one's bent like it fought to escape its duty. Snowmelt trickles down your wrist, carrying flecks of gold leaf. Peeled off adornment or gilded lies. Nobody knows how many village girls pawned their wedding guilt for salted pork. You pocket the pin, its sharp end pricking through fabric, poetic justice in denim. A crow lands nearby, head cocked at the decaying diadem. Its beak opens, but instead of a caw, a half-hearted mimicry of church bells. You toss a burr, it dodges, unamused by your weak offerings. Sunlight hits the crown suddenly. It's a bioluminescent relic from a Tim Burton flick. Reality reasserts, sun-bleached cellulose and disappointment. Your stomach growls, and for one shameful second, you're sizing up the calorie count of mildew. Voice memo time, you narrate the find, until a spluttering laugh cuts you off. Listeners don't need to hear forensic speculation on medieval dandruff flakes. The crown's remaining rose detaches, floats downward, lands in a fox print. Exit stage left. Twilight softens the rot, edges blurring into something almost tender. You press a petal to your palm. It leaves a stain like watered-down wine. Some grad student's thesis whispers memento mori, but the beer-fueled after-party drowned it out. The garland's silhouette could be a monster, a map, a crooked halo. Context crumbles faster than the artifact. You recall a dig team's motto, we're all just caretakers of entropy. Snappy, until your thermos leaks in the rental car. Cold numbs your knees, making the stand-up process a 3-act tragedy. The crown caves inward, collapsing under scrutiny like a bad alibi. Your breath hangs, a foggy ellipsis where a vow should go. By midnight, thaw will reduce it to mulch. Time's done worse to love stories, you think, scraping floral gunk from under your nails. The path home beckons, lit by a McDonald's sign 3 fields over. Golden arches, golden memories, all tarnish eventually. One last look, the crown's now a Rorschach blot in the soil. Mold glows faintly, bioluminescence, or hunger-induced hallucination. You'll plead the 5th at tomorrow's migraine. Wind carries a petal to your collar, resting where a groom's lips might have brushed. Decay's version of a love bite, caustic, familiar. Blue light from your phone mixes with moonlight filtering through the rot. A perfect Instagram story if you ignore the dying flora carcass vibes. You walk, trailing time and decomposition. Somewhere behind thistles reclaim the bridal bed. The road hums with distant trucks, modern dowries of Doritos and diesel. Heat rises from asphalt, almost convincing as midsummer. The asphalt's fever dream warmth fades as shadows stretch sideways, noon sun dimming like a faulty theater lamp. Violet rose lose their namesake hue edges, bleeding into ashen gray. Bees stumble mid-flight, wings catching nothing but confusion. You squint upward, a bite taken from daylight's cheek. 14th century villagers would have cursed this sky, viewing eclipses as heaven's indigestion. A monk's journal from Kent describes farmers banging pots to scare the shadow wolf, though your Uber driver insists it was aliens. Stale sweat trickles down your neck. Medieval panic feels relatable now. Branches carve jagged patterns on the ground, their usual lace, now prison bars. A worker bee collides with your sleeve, dazed, circling 3 times before zooming toward the hives. Apiarists whisper that eclipses reset swarm intelligence, like hitting Control plus Alt plus Del on a motherboard. You half expect error messages in honeycomb. Darkness isn't total, just the world dipped in weak tea. Lavender buds glow like bioluminescent plankton, their scent sharpened by the temperature drop. Historians still argue whether medieval beekeepers used eclipses to predict harvests. You're too busy inhaling panic breath through your nose. Your phone's weather app shows 87% coverage, anticlimactic. Like a deflating, bouncy castle, bees retreat to hives, their buzz sinking to submarine depths. Your pupils dilate, adjusting to gloom that feels earned yet inadequate. A distant truck honks, sound waves warped by the strangeness. The McDonald's arch flickers on early, its neon sickle mocking the occluded sun. You imagine a Dark Ages peasant seeing that glow, inventing dragons on the spot. Shadows sharpen until they cut edges precise as scalpels. The hum below your feet stutters, a vinyl record skipping on disarray. You crouch palm flat to soil, feeling vibrations fade like a dying pulse. Cold rises through your knees, sharp and civic planning gray. Eclipse glasses from the 2017 craze sit, forgotten, in your glove compartment. Squinting feels appropriately medieval, plus you save $8 on retinal surgery. Birds quit singing 20 minutes ago, their silence more unnerving than the dark. A single raven glides overhead, astronomer black against the bruised sky. Its wings beat in 6/8 time. You sway without choosing to. The last sliver of sun winks out, world reduced to old film negatives. Lavender stems shiver, their usual purple, now memory and ache. You brace for revelation apocalypse. Aliens, a Met Gala theme. Reality delivers Walmart parking lot vibes. Air crackles with anticlimax. No divine choirs. Just a car alarm 2 counties over. The eclipse peaks, and you're just a human-shaped smear in the weirdness. Bees begin humming again, lower, slower, as if the dark thickened their syrup. Their wings slice gloom each stroke, leaving temporary tracer lines. You count them like sheep, 4, 7, 11 numbers dissolve into sound. Sunlight returns with the subtlety of a flashbang. Lavender regains its ego, violet screaming look at me. After 5 minutes off stage, bees erupt en masse, their buzz cranked to post-coffee levels. A cicada brood X survivor rasps, any port in a storm. You blink spots away, but the afterimage persists, a crescent burned onto your retina. Historians never mention how celestial events highlight your unpaid bills. Your shadow reappears, stretched long as a funeral cortege. The McDonald's sign buzzes, half its letters dead. Light pollution versus cosmic grandeur. Capitalism wins again. Ground warmth returns faint, like a compliment from an ex. Stiff petals unfold their eclipse droop, replaced with cautious optimism. You check your pulse, 3 beats per wing flap, sinking despite yourself. Moon's grip loosens, sky reasserting its mediocre blue. A deadline looms in your other life, unanswered emails breeding in the dark. Bees dive into blossoms, feigning amnesia about the whole ordeal. By sundown, you'll doubt it happened. Instagram glitches with eclipse posts, Santiago to Saskatchewan. Your thumb hovers over a lavender field hashtag, then swipes to cat videos. The eye of heaven blinked. You survived its gaze without disintegrating. Small victories. Blood sugar drops, 1 Mars bar left in your pack. You unwrap it ceremoniously, sugar glaze catching the light. Medieval peasants had fasting. You have intermittent snacking. Evolution's a work in progress. Bees write off the incident, back to nectar calculus and venom quotas. Shadows soften, their crisis mode crispness fading to suburban dad bod shapes. Your phone dings, a meme of the eclipse wearing sunglasses. Dust motes float, ordinary again. A worker bee grazes your wrist, quick apology before rejoining the grind. You wonder if Hive historians will debate this blip in their scrolls. Dusk arrives on schedule, no encore from the cosmos. field returns to its humble postcard self, as if scrubbed clean of metaphor. You're almost disappointed. Then the first firefly flicks on. Backup stars. The monastery bell groans, a sound older than the Magna Carta by 2 centuries, bronze so heavy with history. It vibrates your molars. Bees lift in unison, thoraxes thrumming like cellos made of anger and wire. 12th century monks scheduled life by these tolls lauds, vespers, compline. Your Apple Watch pales in comparison. Someone once tried translating bee dances into Gregorian chants. The sheet music looked like a drunk spider's memoir. Bell metals, 78% copper, 22% tin, 100% existential dread in D minor. You stand between stone tower and trembling hives, human tuning fork. A drone brushes your ear, its buzz syncs with the 5th toll. Historians still argue whether Cistercians trained bees to heed bells. Your ribs hum yes. Swinging rope blisters unseen palms 8 stories up. Each ring flattens lavender, stems bowing as if to a tuneless king. Bees weave through clapper echoes, their flight paths nodding, sound into physical shapes. The worst church choir you ever heard, this is their backup band. Golden hour takes the stage, sunset, gilding the bell's patinated curves. Workers ascend, carrying sunset-red pollen like miniature commuters with overtime pay. 1 minute past vespers, the bell stops. Bees hold their note, then unravel into chaos. Your ears throb, silence feels thicker, stickier than honey left out too long. A novice's mistake in 1327, the bell cracked during Pentecost. They blamed a scribe's cursed ink. You trace fissures in the tower, your nail catching centuries of moss and regret. 5 fire ants march across a hymnbook's carcass, theological debate in hexapod. Dusk pigments the hive's indigo. Workers circle your head, making halo drafts before deadline. Your scalp tingles, part reverence, part pesticide commercial PTSD. If you swat, does that make you a heretic? The thorn apple bush suggests yes. Monks once brewed delirium from its roots, medieval Ambien, with hellfire aftertaste. Bees avoid it, smart little catechumens. Your nose wrinkles at the memory of communion, wine gone off. Last bell vibration fades from your sternum. Bees retreat, carrying dusk in their leg baskets. The abbey's shadow stretches across the field, a ruler measuring night's approach. Wikipedia says bell towers housed apiaries during plague years. You imagine friars in hazmat hoods, collecting honeyed propolis for the dying. Thank God for WebMD and DoorDash. A scout bee lands on your wrist, drawing figure eights with frantic precision, directions to the linden trees, or Morse code for this guy's awkward. You nod like you understand. Crickets inherit the soundscape, their chorus cheaper, but reliable. The bell stays, mute its voice, pensionied off until dawn. You pocket a fallen lavender stem, souvenir, or future toothpick. Depends on the drive home. Heat lightning scribbles on the horizon. Bees tuck in, comb corridors echoing with wing-washed lullabies. You exhale 1 part carbon dioxide, 9 parts unanswered texts from your mother. Blackbird swoops, wing beats mimicking the vanished bell's Doppler effect. Your phone's flashlight makes a pathetic votive candle. But the moths aren't picky theologians. Historians never mention how monasteries stored silence in wine cellars. You drink yours straight, no sacramental chase needed. The first star flicks on a punctual altar boy. Breeze carries the last resonance somewhere between a hymn and a yawn. Your shadow melts into the greater dark, another note in the discord. Bees dream in wax, you in Wi-Fi, passwords, the bell in whatever bells dream of. Probably bigger bells. Your fingertip hovers above a lavender stalk, its base blackened like a burnt match head. 14th century farmers called this god's charcoal. Now it's just fungal blight, 101. Each withered cluster maps the rot's advance, purple kingdoms surrendering to decay's ink. You kneel, knee cracking like a hazelnut shell, and the earth exhales century-old plague pollen. Medieval crop rotation failed here first. 3-field systems choked when villages emptied, Black Death leaving more soil than hands. Your nail traces a lesion, ridged and deliberate as monastic script. Someone hung garlic bundles here in 1923. Beekeepers swore it scared off the rot devil. Smells like bad lasagna and desperation. Shadows pool where petals once held sun. A lone bee investigates the necrosis. Her legs recoil mid-landing. Insect ethics committee in session. Historians still argue whether monks shaped blight patterns as symbolic memento mori. You whisper vanitas vanitatum. The breeze answers with a mold spore. Rot spreads in fractal tendrils, nature's lace collapsing under its own ambition. Your palm flattens on cracked soil. Warmth surprises, decay generates its own fever. Tiny white mushrooms erupt like pustules, Earth's attempt at a sick day. 12 spots, 14, 18 counting stops when numbers taste like ash. A hot breeze unravels your hair. Field mice built parchment nests from 1605, tax records nearby. Ink long licked clean by rain. Their descendants dart between stalks, tiny furred historians. One pauses, whiskers quivering at your shoelaces Vatican level, not complexity. Lightning scars the horizon. You imagine medieval peasants blaming this rot on lunar eclipses or unattended confessions. Modern agritech brochures glare from your inbox, neon diagrams bullying your resignation. The blight breathes, you breathe deeper. Night unspools its yarn first star, snagging on a thistle. 3 ants haul a petal fragment across your calf, funeral procession for summer. Their root mirrors lost pilgrimage paths. Cocking's 1913 map crumbling in Oxford's archives. You let them pass. Emperors taxed lavender oil by the dram during the Antonine Plague. One sneeze could bankrupt a duchy. Moonlight rinses the field monochrome. Rot glistens now, oil-slick rainbows on collapsed cells. Your fingertip comes away tacky. The smell suggests forgotten blueberries and existentialism. That hipster kombucha you tried last Tuesday shares the same aftertaste. A worker bee drones past, altered flight path, steering clear of necrosis. Smart girl, 13th century bestiaries, claim bees abandon cursed grounds, their wings refusing to carry evil nectar. Your ankles itch, psychosomatic or spore-induced. WebMD's offline, the universe giggles. Cold creeps up as Venus dims. You count healthy stocks, 37, 62, 94. Math dissolves into texture. Each surviving plant hums lower, sleepier than its blighted kin. Your phone dies, mercifully sparing you 10 signs you're having a rural existential crisis listicles. Do births phantom lavender, silvered droplets where blooms should be. Rot softens under moisture, black edges blurring into charcoal watercolors. You retrieve a crumbling clod, hundreds of springtails fleeing Y-O-U-R Chinese letter. The soil's greasy, sour, embarrassingly human. Foxfire glows where roots succumb. St. Medard's hagiography mentions bioluminescent rot guiding lost shepherds, 9th century Bic lighter. Your breath fogs, each exhale a transient ghost. Knees protest. You rise like a poorly oiled trebuchet. Dawn's first breeze stirs the dead stalks. They rattle, a language B-E-T-W-E-E-N Chinese letter, and surrender. Your shadow stretches west, all wobbly edges and indecision. A sparrow plucks seeds from a split pod, brunch, with existential seasoning. Rot's border feels less defined now, or your eyes adjusted to its vocabulary. You pocket a withered bud, future paperweight, future kin's allergy test. 7 bees investigate your collar. They'll file reports in hexagonal cabinets. Sun cracks the horizon, gold spilling through lesion gaps. The blight shrinks, or the light lies beautifully. Your souls leave temporary dents, erased by noon's heat. Behind closed eyelids, a reverse time-lapse, rot retreating, blooms surging, film burning at the edges. Acceptance arrives. A bee lands on your rot-touched hand. She preens, unimpressed by human concepts of decay. Wings flicker once, carrying no answers, only the news of a new time patch. A stray note hooks your ear, something between a shepherd's flute and a tea kettle's wine. The time-scented wind unspools it. A half-remembered tune your tongue tries to cradle. Medieval goat herds wore cowbells tuned to C-sharp. Historians insist it prevented avalanches by annoying mountain spirits. Your hum tangles with the breeze, a mutant lullaby even your dentist would disown. 3 bees sync to your off-key vibrations, their buzz harmonizing with your uvula's sad tremors. 10th century alpine herdsmen allegedly summoned swarms by yodeling. If you believe moldy peasant quarterly's dodgy spring issue. Your left nostril flares. Is that gorgonzola or yesterday's epiphany? The melody slips, a soap bubble escaping bathwater. Cicadas fill the gaps, their rasp like radio static between stations. You channel your inner Billie Holiday, vibrato wobblier than a three-legged stool. Pebbles shift underfoot, centuries of hooves carved this path. Someone's forgotten lunch pail rusts nearby, 1930's enamel flaking like gluten-free communion wafers. Historians still argue whether Lamabada, oldest Arabic song, began as a goat-milking chant. Your rendition makes camels weep in hypothetical tents. Sunlight glints off a mica vein, nature's disco ball for one. The bees ditch your concert for actual flowers, harsh but fair. Your sandal crushes wild oregano. The scent unlocks Great Aunt Edna's 1978 meatloaf recipe. A lizard side-eyes your pitch, cold-blooded critique at its finest. Clouds blob into eighth notes overhead. You recall Bavarian folklore. Certain frequencies make goat's milk taste like caramel. Lab tests remain inconclusive, much like your dating history. The wind steals your high C, tosses it down the valley. Your diaphragm deflates, dignity following suit. Shadows stretch into staff lines. A garter snake coils near your heel, living fermata. 14 generations back, your ancestors probably herded sheep or tax collectors. The melody reshapes. Less hymn, more emo haiku. Thunder applauds half-heartedly, an open mic regular phoning it in. Dusk blurs the horizon, purple syrup spilling over hills. Fireflies blink in 6/8 time nature's backup singers arriving late. Your throat rasps, kombucha betrayal. 17th century nuns supposedly excommunicated a goat for singing profane songs. You glance around, no papal delegates. Yet, the first stars hum middle A, cosmic tuning fork, vibrating your molars. Your shoelace vibrato loosens. The song simplifies, becomes breath more than music. A moth flees your nasal passages amateur hour. The bees return charitable souls. Night wraps the valley, a phonograph needle finding its groove. Your lullaby dissolves into yawn's lyrics, replaced by cliffside echoes. Somewhere, a kid plinks the same 5 notes on a toy piano century after century. No sheet music needed. The time nods off, you follow, hum, now a tuneless rumble. Snail trails glisten on nearby rocks, slimy sheet music for a genre that doesn't exist. Your jaw unclenches, finally hitting the song's absence of rhythm. Rain begins, each drop a staccato punchline to your earnestness. Bees tuck into hives, polite audience members exiting before the encore. Your final note evaporates, a dandelion clock blown by a fish's sneeze. The wind herds stray melodies toward Slovenia, or possibly Ohio. Venus winks, celestial stage light dimming. Sleep tugs your eyelids. You've sung enough accidental hymns for one lifetime. You turn your soul's crunching parched soil that remembers bare medieval feet. A lone worker bee hovers, her legs dusted with lavender's last pollen. 13 generations back, your ancestors brewed mead in clay pots, or so family lore claims. Her wings blur, a flicker book flip of farewell. Historians still argue whether hive patterns carved on Norman churches warded off evil, or lazy tax collectors, Shialites, 6 tiny feet cooler than the air. 8th century monks buried skeps in winter, snug as bears in woolen mittens. You ration breaths, lungs competing with her abdomen's golden tremors. A Byzantine empress supposedly wore live bees as earrings, fashion's original buzzworthy trend. Your name dissolves in her flight path, too many syllables for insect cargo. Time scratches your calves. Its scent conjures a nun's forgotten cough syrup. The bee traces your jawline mapping salt trails left by evaporated dawn. Medieval peasants thought hives housed dead children's souls, messengers between root and sky. Your pulse sinks to her zigzag dance, a tempo even Spotify can't categorize. Shadows stretch long fingers grasping at your silhouette. She hesitates, her compound eyes refracting your face into 1,000 fragments. Renaissance beekeepers sang Gregorian chants to calm swarms. Yours hums Brittany Spears off-key. Wind riffles the lavender, a standing ovation of scent and sound. One wing brushes your earlobe, a whisper drier than papyrus. You recall apothecary journals claiming bee venom cured melancholy, or caused it. Her antennae quiver, decoding the static your pores emit. 17 species have gone extinct since you parked the rental car. The math itches. You let wasps handle accounting. Clouds mimic wool, tufts torn from a juror's sleeve. She ascends, a comma, punctuating the sky's run-on sentence. Wars were fought over this valley's honey. Now tourists fight for parking. Your last exhale feathers the air, carbon dioxide love letter to photosynthesis. The hum thins, a threadbare quilt of sound. You imagine her stitching your name into hexagonal comb archives, misspelled but preserved. A fly buzzes past, hashtagging your epiphany into irrelevance. Your backpack, zipper's growl scatters sparrows, nature's version of clearing browser history. Gravel pops underfoot, each step a firework for ants. The bees now a speck, then a memory, then your optometrist's problem. 6th century laws find hive thieves 12 jars of honey or 3 sheep. You check your pockets, just lint and €1 from 2002. Sunlight plucks the horizon's harpstrings. A ladybug hitches a ride on your shoelace, Uber pool for invertebrates. Your stomach growls medieval. It wants trenchers of bread, or at least a granola bar. The lavender ripples, saying nothing, saying everything. Silence pools in your wake. You count 19 steps before realizing numbers are human constructs. A dung beetle rolls its treasure, more purposeful than your LinkedIn profile. The worker's final buzz hangs between 2 pines, an M dash made tangible. Your shadow detaches, self-awareness too heavy for twilight. Nettles cling to your cuffs, Velcro of the underwhelming apocalypse. 17 protons in a single honey molecule vibrate. Or maybe that's your phone. You leave the vibration unanswered. Let entropy handle notifications. Moonrise gilds the path home. Your fingernails smell of resin and Subway sandwich from lunch. Historians still argue whether Charlemagne's coronation bees were real or just drunk hornets. The answer hums in your marrow, useless as a dictionary in a dream. Wind plucks a leaf from your hair, autumn's first draft. You think of hive walls, warm wax, queens who have never seen the sky. Sleep tugs your left iris. The world blurs into watercolor edges. The worker bee's gift lingers, a phantom itch on your collarbone. You walk, the earth spins somewhere. A hive's heart beats in triple time. Names don't matter here, only the weight of wings and where they point you next. Your knees meet earth, still warm from a sun that's folded itself away. Crickets stitch the silence, each chirp a bead on night's necklace. That bee's path lingers, a ghostly parenthesis around your collarbone. Breathe deeper now, letting ribs swing like monastery gates. Lavender bends, its purple stamens bowing to some unseen crown. You think of queens, both hive and human, who rule realms smaller than your palm. Dirt clings to your palms, a map of dried up streams. Stars blink awake, oldest historians in the sky's archive. A moth grazes your wrist, velvet wingtips softer than forgotten grievances. Your eyelashes grow heavy dust and dusk, conspiring to lower the curtain. Somewhere, a hive hums lullabies in a key only roots understand. Let your spine curve, a bridge between today and whatever comes. Wind carries a petal, your open palm becomes its final altar. Names fade, titles blur, even time yawns and stretches its joints. The world shrinks to this warmth underfoot, cool air above, stillness between. Moonlight spills like spilled milk, no use crying over constellations. Your pulse slows, a drum learning to march without a war. That last buzz lingers, not a goodbye, just a comma. Let the earth hold what your mind can't. Sleep arrives, a beekeeper in velvet gloves. She guides you home,